launched missile strikes on the Ukrainian capital of Kyiv during a visit by the head of the United Nations. US President Joe Biden is asking Congress to approve more than $30 billion in new funding for assistance for Ukraine. And Ukrainians are being turned back at the US-Mexico border following the launch of a new US refugee sponsorship program. And that's the latest feature story news. Kate Fisher reporting.
Hundreds of exasperated Americans confirmed Thursday that, for fuck's sake, the article they just clicked on is actually a stupid video.
I clicked on the story thinking I'd be in and out of there in 30 seconds, but then that little buffering thing popped up and I was like, here we go.
Quickly hitting the mute button after being disoriented by a loud blast of noise from some stupid ad for Hotels.com, many of the deceived then scanned the webpage for some corresponding write-up so that they could simply read in peace, but reports indicated that would just be too convenient, wouldn't it?
Look, I don't want to watch a report or interview or panel discussion or whatever the hell this is. I just want to skim an article real quick and move on with my day. This is bullshit.
After seriously considering hitting the back button on their browsers, sources say the majority of readers decided to just let the video play out.
You know what? I'll watch the thing, and I'll probably watch the next video that automatically loads afterwards.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live. Welcome to Free Talk Live. The phones are open, as always, at 603-283-6160. You can bring up whatever you want to discuss. Joining you in the studio tonight, you've got me, Ian.
And Bonnie.
And Joa.
And you can join us online anytime you want. Just head over to freetalklive.com. Enjoy the features waiting for you on our site. All over there at freetalklive.com. Joa, you apparently were monitoring the live feed from the State House. Either you were there in person. I didn't ask you how.
No, I was watching it via YouTube's.
It's always more convenient that way. You don't have to waste your time driving, so you can then be disappointed in person when the New Hampshire Senate votes down not one, but apparently two cannabis-related bills that would have supposedly increased freedom when it came to cannabis here in New Hampshire, and you watched the whole thing go down. The bill that I think was the better bill, which was 629, would have been a home grow legalization, and it would have further decriminalized, because New Hampshire does have decriminalized cannabis possession. Right. So if you are caught, as I understand it, with upwards of 3/4 of an ounce of cannabis by a cop, they can take the weed.
Yeah.
And they can issue you a $100 ticket, and then you can, in my opinion, refuse to pay it. I would never give these people any money because that just encourages them. But if you don't pay a fine, usually you can sit it off in jail for a day.
Unless they tell you no.
Well, if you don't pay a fine, it has to come to a head at some point. And they don't want to put you in jail. But
I'll say I've only heard of that ever happening once. As far as people saying, I'm not going to pay this, I'll take my time in jail. Either they will give you community service instead of going to jail.
But you could refuse to do community service as well, and eventually they will have to put you in jail at some point. Most people don't push it that far. Once they've been given community service, they usually just go ahead and do that. And that's still better than paying the state, because you're not paying the state. But anyway, so if I were to get a cannabis ticket, which I wouldn't get because I'm not allowed to do any kind of cannabis due to my bail conditions, thanks to the federal government, I certainly wouldn't pay for it. But that's way better than getting a misdemeanor charge, which is the way it used to be. If you had, even a little half a joint or something like that, you'd get arrested and you'd have a misdemeanor possession charge on your record. So that changed back in 2017, but obviously that doesn't go far enough. And so the bill today, House Bill 629, adults 21 and older would have been permitted to possess up to 3/4 of an ounce of cannabis, as well as cannabis-infused edibles and tinctures. And those are also allowed under the decrim bill. Again, if you have some edibles, or if you have, I think it's up to 5 grams of like hashish or a concentrate of some sort, again, it's just a $100 fine. And of course, the number of those fines that are being given out are very, very small, because the cops basically aren't looking for this anymore. There was no mechanism in the bill establishing retail sale of cannabis, but adults would have been permitted to grow up to 6 adult plants. So it would have taken the already existing decriminalized status for possession up to 3/4 of an ounce and eliminated the $100 fine. So that's what that would have been the big thing, plus the home grow that this would have done. To me, this was much better than the other bill, which would have given the state exclusive monopoly control over selling
alcohol.
Cannabis.
Yeah.
And you said the Senate didn't pass this today. Does that mean that the House passed it?
The House overwhelmingly passed this bill, 241 to 113. However, today it failed at a similar margin, but in the reverse. So
goes back to the House, though, right?
9. No, it was 15 to 9. It is dead. So this is going to have to
get passed by both, and that's how it goes. Wow.
And so,
I didn't realize it was New Hampshire. Okay.
And then the other bill also got voted down, which I'm actually glad that it got voted down, the one that would have given the state an exclusive monopoly on selling cannabis legally. I think that's a terrible idea.
Terrible.
So I'm glad they shot that one down. But this other one is just a decrim bill. It would have simply allowed home grow. It would have gotten rid of the $100 tickets, which those tickets aren't doing anything for revenue because they're hardly writing them at all. But you listen to these senators, these old fossils, talking about the reasons why they opposed this bill. What did you hear today?
Well, the biggest sort of blanket excuse that they were using was, don't we realize the federal government it's still illegal by the feds, and we're afraid of the feds, and this is a great opportunity for NH exit. I was just thinking that the whole time. We don't need them anymore. Stop thinking that way. We have supreme law here in New Hampshire that we can deal with and not have to worry about what the feds say. You think all these other states are caring what the feds say?
No, it's so stupid. I mean, it was a dumb excuse 15 years ago when the conversation about New Hampshire decrim was getting started. It was a bad excuse then.
Now they've seen how it's gone in other states.
Right. And that is to say that the feds don't do anything about the other states. The feds are not getting involved in the other state legalization.
But it's really ironic when they were talking about, they kept on using the word marijuana, which I don't like to use that word, and have that
slang,
Washington banned
basically.
it. Yeah. Washington State banned that, by the way.
I didn't know that.
Using the word marijuana in all legislation.
Cannabis is a more appropriate scientific term.
Or weed, cannabis. So, cannabis, they look at it as really dangerous thing. A really, really dangerous thing.
Still they do.
But at the same time, it's I don't support it, them taking over it with the state and, serving it like they do alcohol. Mm-hmm. Well, that's the irony, is that you're serving something that's actually deadly, and it has a high alcohol overdose rate with the young people, and then you look at this other thing that can't kill you. You can't OD on it.
Nope.
You might get a little sleepy, you might get a little hungry, but you're certainly not, having to go to the hospital to get your stomach pumped.
Didn't some kids die at Keene State from falling downstairs because they were drinking so much alcohol? I don't know.
It wouldn't surprise me. I don't recall hearing that story, but I mean, there were crazy riots that happened at Keene State back in 2014 where, people were in very dangerous situations because they were S-faced drunk.
Pumpkin
Fest riots.
Much like
pumpkin seed.
University is going to be 1 floors soon, so they can...
It's just for safety.
For safety, no more stairs.
So they're saying the same old crap year after year after year, while the House voted overwhelmingly for this bill. So what this shows you is there's a huge difference in the power level, right? These senators in New Hampshire, we like to brag about the fact that there's 400 state representatives. It's the most representative body in the United States as far as state reps are concerned. There's no other state that even comes close. The average state representative, quote unquote, represents about 3,000 to 3,500 people in their given district. If you take 1.3 million and you do the math, that's about what it comes out to. That's unprecedentedly good compared to other states. But unfortunately, we only have 24 senators. Yeah. And so each one of those senators has a much larger power base. Like the average state rep, you're 1 out of 400. You're a nobody, basically. But 1 out of 24, you got a little more sway. And so it's harder to change these people's minds. They're more likely to be statists. They're more dug in, like ticks in the system. They're harder to get rid of.
What is their term limit like?
2 years.
Oh.
Well, there's no term limit. I'm sorry to clarify. There's no term limit. That's what I meant. They are in for a 2-year term, and then they get reelected and reelected and reelected.
But they can get reelected as many times as they want?
Yeah, there's no term limits on any position, I don't think, in New Hampshire government.
I thought it was kind of funny that they were bringing up how, cannabis, or sorry, their words, marijuana is laced with fentanyl. And this is true. It has happened, allegedly. I don't know. I just heard on the news, so I don't really know.
Exactly. That's never happened to me in my, over a decade of smoking weed.
But now they're talking about apples and oranges. They're not talking just about weed. They're talking about laced weed with a deadly drug. Stop doing this, because anyone can lace your alcoholic beverage at a bar.
Sure. Put some GHB in there, right?
I'm sure that's legal, right? No, it's not.
No.
Yeah, nobody ever brings that up if you talk about alcohol. They're not like, alcohol is dangerous because people could, drug it with Rohypnol.
You're more easily manipulated under alcohol than you are under cannabis.
Absolutely. And remember, druggings do not happen at Walgreens or CVS or Walmart when you're going and buying something off the shelf. If you go and you buy a case of, like aspirin or something like that, and you open up this, it's sealed, right? You know that there's no one who's gone in and tampered with that, although there was once upon a time somebody did poison a batch of Bayer like decades ago. But for the most part, when you buy
something... Though.
Was it at the factory?
But you're saying it's not so much as it was regulated, but it was over the counter where they could be held accountable.
That's true. Yeah, you know where it's coming from.
Exactly.
You know there's a supply chain. Exactly. There's more on the way. You can share your thoughts on decrim coming up. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
When Monster Hunter International discovers one of Isaac Newton's wardstones being auctioned off, they decide to steal it and use it to destroy the Chaos God once and for all. But a mysterious thief upends their plan, and it soon becomes a race against time as something much older and infinitely more evil awakens in the jungles of South America. Monster Hunter Bloodlines by New York Times bestselling author Larry Correia and Baen Books. Visit monsterhunternation.com for more.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it.
Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 27th through July 3rd for the 6th annual Fork Fest at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. Fork Fest is a fork of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which sold out for the first time in 2021. Fork Fest takes place the week after Pork Fest, but Fork Fest is decentralized, which means that there's no ticket cost and no one is in charge. All you have to do to join the fun is reserve your camping site, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 27th through July 3rd. There's no better place to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving activists in the Shire. You can find out more at the unofficial website, forkfest.party. You can also connect with other attendees on the Forkfest Telegram and Matrix chat rooms, as well as the Forkfest Forum. You can find links to those at forkfest.party. We hope to see you there. Forkfest.party. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live listen line, 641-793-0191.
Are you tired of your taxes funding endless occupations around the world? Antiwar.com is run by people who understand that wars abroad become wars at home, wars on our freedoms. Antiwar.com is dedicated to bringing you the latest in news, views, interviews, and reviews from the top movers and shakers in the anti-occupation movement. Antiwar.com has it all, from thorough foreign policy analysis to interviews with whistleblowers who used to run the military-industrial complex. Anti-war, pro-free market. That's antiwar.com.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
This is Free Talk Live. The number 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Phones are open. You can bring up anything, as you always can here on Free Talk Live. And we are brought to you by Bitcoin.com. If you are ready to start learning about cryptocurrency like Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, get on over to Bitcoin.com. They can help you there. Just click Get Started at the top of the page, and you'll start learning because there's some introductory videos that you can dig into. You can go as deep as you want on this topic. It is a very, very interesting universe. So get over to Bitcoin.com, click Get Started, and you can start learning there. And if you're not brand new, you can go to their news site over at news.bitcoin.com. They always have the latest headlines from the world of cryptocurrency there at news.bitcoin.com. Ian, Bonnie, and Joa in the studio here tonight. Coming up, we're going to play some audio from what looks like a city council meeting or something.
Yes.
Mountain Air, where I'm not even sure where that is. Do you know where?
I believe it's Arizona.
Arizona. Okay, so there's a cop block guy, James Freeman, and you saw this clip, Joe, and you wanted to share with us. That's coming up here tonight.
Yeah, James Freeman, he's one of us.
He's calling out this city council, apparently, and I haven't even seen it yet, so I'm going in completely blind to this. So we'll get into that. But you were watching, Joe, the feed, because thankfully if there's one bright spot from the whole COVID insanity that has happened in the last couple of years, it was that all of a sudden there was a fire under the state reps and the state senators to actually get some technological upgrades done to the state house and put some damn cameras in there so people can actually watch these supposedly public hearings without having to go and drive an hour and a half or whatever to go to Concord. And then find parking and walk into it's a pain.
It's so messed up that it took that long because seriously, I mean, more than 90% of people have to have never been to a public hearing.
Sure.
Just because of the fact that they would have attended if it was online.
Well, and 90% of people still aren't going to go and attend it online.
Not only that, some of the reps, some of the senators weren't even there, and they actually zoomed in. So there were two zoomed in at that meeting as well. And I think they were also
like Democrats?
Well, they were also there for another bill right after that, which had to do with do schools have the right to choose if kids have masks? And I forget exactly, honestly, but it was something to do with masks and how they're not medical professionals and we can't make this decision through the
Didn't the mask bill didn't they pass that to where schools cannot force masks on kids?
I'm not 100% sure what the result was, but that was right after the cannabis or
so there was supposedly there was some good news today, but it wasn't good when it came to cannabis.
Right. And I'm not surprised. Like, none of the legislations were perfect, I tell you that.
Of course not.
Yeah.
I mean, they rarely are.
Yeah, there's always a twist, huh?
Bob Guida, who is a Republican from Warren, told his colleagues during an hour-long debate on the cannabis bills, quote, "This is not a harmless substance. Legalizing this does no good for any segment of our population."
From New Hampshire?
Uh-huh.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's the state senator.
They probably get more of taxes on prepared food. When it gets passed, so people are going to be hungry. They don't want to put the work in and make it themselves. They're going to buy prepared food and pay the tax. They're not looking at all the little incentives that they have at place,
Well, they're also not looking at what the people of New Hampshire actually
you're saying
think.
If they passed the marijuana bill, they would make more money off food taxes.
Yes, prepared food taxes, yeah.
Only, according to a poll that was done in 2019, and I just don't, this is what they cited in this New Hampshire Public Radio article by the University of New Hampshire. The Granite State poll found that only 27% of Granite Staters oppose legalizing cannabis for personal use.
Wow.
Only 27%.
And they're probably going to die within the next 5 years.
Yeah, it
Not
may
from
be,
marijuanas, though.
No.
yeah, it may be age-related. I don't know if they do a demographic breakdown in here.
That was just me assuming, not based on scientific evidence or anything.
Well, it is an interesting question to see if there was, some sort of a breakdown like that. Age of respondents. We do have this here, Bonnie. Looks like sex of respond. Oh no, these are just a breakdown on the demographics. It doesn't show what
they answered.
People believe. So
that matters too, because this is a result. Like, what is the demographic of those for and against? It doesn't matter, because obviously the results are bad.
Well, yeah, because the results of the poll are very good, but what you're saying is the Senate doesn't care.
I just feel like a lot of young people in this state don't step up unless they're part of the liberty and freedom movements.
That's true for young people everywhere. You said in the state, but I mean, it's
they
just
have too much
generally
pressure
true.
on them in college, and finding a career
for whatever
there's
reason
things that they can't pay attention to.
And the thing is, like on Instagram, Ian, I've been saying this the whole time I've been on Free Talk Live, there's like this subtle mind control technique that is used. The main app I use is Instagram. It also is on a thing that happens on TikTok, which is what younger people always use. It happens on Twitter. There are just these things suggested for you. Your friend didn't post it, but it's just suggested for you to look at, and it basically is peer pressure memes or videos or text that says something that will make you feel like it would be lame to care about politics is one thing I see. It is lame to be anything right-wing, which, not that I think that's better than left-wing, but it seems to steer people towards a superficial left-wing, like, oh, you should be for this stuff, but don't think about like the wars and all this other stuff,
Yeah, but as soon as like MTV says rock the vote, they're all like, oh my god, it's so trendy to vote.
No, they don't. They really don't. They
like to post pictures of it and stuff, and
MTV,
and lots of people my age will post like a little meme that says like, if you care about things and want to care and show that you care, then you need to go vote today.
Yeah, but they don't do it. There's a lot of promotion for voting amongst young people, but they don't actually go out and vote in any large numbers. I've stood outside polling centers before, and I can tell you, it's white hairs.
Right.
It's white hair after white hair after white hair.
I always feel like I feel really young. I just go vote just to feel young again.
Look, I'm not saying voting's going to change anything, right? If the old saying is if voting changed anything, they would make it illegal. I mean, as long as you've got a scumbag running against another scumbag, it
basically
doesn't matter.
The thing I'm talking about is the media in general, TV, music videos, everything tells young people that it's not cool to care.
It isn't cool to care.
They say it's not cool to care?
It's not cool to care about what's going on in your life. I mean, in politics, and lots of people will say like, I don't care about politics. When I talk about something like,
it sucks.
Isn't politics. I mean, I don't talk about politics literally to anybody I know, and then I get the response, I don't care about politics pretty often.
Yeah,
there is
like
definitely...
this isn't talking about
it's
politics.
A stigma. People hear the word politics and they go, "Oh, I don't want to hear it."
Well,
like
sucks.
I'm talking about. Did you know that Mayor so and so said this? Like that's not what I'm talking about. Like that's what Law Dog called out yesterday. Did you know they're going to arrest Joe Biden? That's boring.
I like to say to people, "Oh no, I agree. I don't like politics. I'm more into philosophy."
Yeah,
exactly.
That's what I like to say.
I hate politics.
Yeah,
I find politicians to be despicable people.
Like I don't care what color tie they're wearing. That's politics.
Yeah, that's true. But I do care about issues, and I do care about human freedom. And unfortunately, these bloodsuckers are the people who are stealing freedom away from people, and in many cases doing it to the cheers of the very people that they're oppressing. And it's just
because there's
sad.
A campaign to make freedom look uncool as well.
That's true. If you want to weigh in here, the number is 603-283-6160. More on the stupid New Hampshire Senate going against what people want. It's Free Talk Live. Free Talk Live's video archives have been on LBRY for years. LBRY is an uncensorable, decentralized, blockchain-based media sharing protocol, and we're big fans of it here on Free Talk Live. In 2020, LBRY launched Odyssey, a video sharing website to compete with YouTube, and it's really taking off, now with over 1 million channels, many of whom are disaffected YouTube creators. During YouTube's crackdown for not towing the government line on COVID, the Free Talk Live YouTube channel started receiving strikes and could be completely taken down at any moment. Thankfully, Odyssey started offering live streaming, so we're now streaming live every night and posting our video archives permanently to Odyssey. You can watch live or anytime on our Odyssey channel by visiting video.freetalklive.com. If you want to go all in, download the desktop app at lbry.com, and then every video archive you watch, you'll help seed and keep it online forever. At minimum, we ask you visit video.freetalklive.com and follow us on Odyssey today. video.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Kate Fisher. Russia has launched missile strikes on the Ukrainian capital city of Kyiv during a visit by the head of the United Nations. The attack happened barely an hour after Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky held a news conference with UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres. Our Kyiv correspondent Sergio Olmos reports.
We do hear air raid sirens every day. We heard them today. But when these strikes occurred, these loud explosions here in the capital, there was no air raid sirens. That added a bit of fear here in the capital that an attack can occur without the notification of an air raid siren. So while in other parts of the country, airstrikes, artillery strikes are much more common, especially in the east, here in the capital, there's been a kind of a lulling of a sense of normalcy tonight was just shattered, especially when the UN Secretary General is here visiting with the President of Ukraine. To have missile strikes in the city center on a residential building is just shocking.
Meanwhile, US President Joe Biden is asking the US Congress to approve more than $30 billion in new funding for security, economic and humanitarian assistance for Ukraine. Caroline Malone reports from Washington.
President Biden asked Congress to approve $33 billion in new aid for Ukraine on Thursday. That's another $20 billion in security assistance, $8.5 billion in economic aid, plus $3 billion for humanitarian and food security funding. That's in addition to the billions of dollars in Ukraine-related assistance already approved in March, which Biden says has nearly been spent.
This so-called supplemental funding addresses the needs of the Ukrainian military during the critical weeks and months ahead.
The request for funds now goes to Capitol Hill alongside proposals to support the economy, and at a time when lawmakers are already divided over new pandemic funding.
Ukrainians are being turned back at the US-Mexico border following the launch of a new US refugee sponsorship program. Many are being sent to shelters in Mexico City while their asylum claims are processed. Our US correspondent Ira Spitzer has more.
The new U.S. policy has taken some Ukrainians by surprise who had hoped to fly to Mexico on tourist visas and cross into the U.S. over the land border, something that more than 20,000 Ukrainians have done since the Russian invasion began. While the U.S. says it plans to accept as many as 100,000 Ukrainian refugees, the new requirements include a U.S.-based sponsor who can provide financial support. Ukrainians at the border are now in the same position as other refugees. As a result of the Title 42 policy to limit the spread of COVID-19, no one is allowed to claim asylum at the U.S.-Mexico border at the moment.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. You can join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Talking about the failure of the latest marijuana decriminalization/legalization bills here in New Hampshire, despite the fact that the New Hampshire State House overwhelmingly voted in favor of House Bill 629, which would have allowed adults to no longer receive a $100 fine if they possess cannabis up to 3/4 of an ounce. and also would have allowed adults over the age of 21 to have been permitted to grow up to 6 adult cannabis plants at any given time. That, again, passed overwhelmingly by the state house and went down 15-9 today in the state Senate. Now, it was not on party lines, which was one of the questions I had earlier. I've got the details here from...
And what does that mean?
New Hampshire Public Radio has a story. What that means, Bonnie, is party lines would mean that all the Republicans voted in one direction and all the Democrats voted in the other direction. That did not happen here.
It was all wishy-washy.
Here, you had 3 Democrats joining all but 2 Republicans to kill the measures. So both Republicans and Democrats voted against this. 2 Republicans voted in favor of it, and I know one of these Republicans is actually pretty good on liberty. He's the most liberty-oriented senator. His name is Harold French, and he voted to pass the bill. So good for him. And another senator, John Reagan, also voted in favor. But again, it was only 9 voting in favor of it and 15 voting it down. So despite the fact that almost 3 out of 4 of people in New Hampshire want to see legal marijuana, these old fools in the state Senate continue to oppose it. And the only solution here, of course, is to get these people out of office and put some people who actually care about liberty in there, and it's not an easy task.
Now, they worry about people like, getting ill and sick and all that stuff, whatever, from this new drug they're going to pass. But at the same time, just the other day, they essentially legalized suicide. Did you hear about this?
Who did this?
The government. I don't know which. Maybe it was the Senate.
In New Hampshire?
Yes, but there's a stipulation here. You have to work for the government.
What do you mean?
So they're considering that suicide, if you are a first responder and you killed yourself, they're considering that now like you died in the line of duty. Which is like, that's crazy. Like, they're just encouraging them to suicide and without repercussions. Like, it's, good for us, not for them. It's like, that doesn't make any sense. That's favoritism. And is that how depressing government is? That if you work for them, you might kill yourself and they don't want to, have any repercussions for that? It just sounds crazy.
How can you get repercussions if you're dead?
Well, that too. Like, how can they even stop anybody from doing it?
And they shouldn't be allowed to stop anybody from killing themselves.
Yeah, it's not the kind of suicide news that I would want to hear. I'd want to hear that suicide was legal in New Hampshire, which is not. Assisted suicide,
like assisted
for
suicide
instance,
would be much better than people jumping off buildings.
Yeah.
I mean, not that I even have heard of that happening in New Hampshire, but I'm just saying if that was like somebody's only option, but instead they could go to the doctor, talk to them about how they're feeling, and maybe get some treatment, and then if they still decide they want to kill themselves, they get killed in a humane way.
Yeah,
maybe that's like the point, is that their health care isn't great and they can't get the help, so they're like, all right, we'll just let these people kill themselves, and we'll call it died in the line of duty.
Yeah, I missed that one when it came through, but
that's just weird semantics too. It's like you didn't change anything.
Yeah. But anyway, the real bad news here, of course, is that the cannabis bills did not pass. And then you had said something else, Joe, and I didn't make a note.
The mask thing?
What was it? Oh yeah, schools and masks. There was
it was the schools and masks. Like, they were trying to mandate it throughout all the schools. I'm pretty sure. Don't quote me on that.
I thought the bill was to. I believe the bill was to actually prohibit the schools from actually
being able to
this.
mandate it.
Yeah. I saw something on social media about it, but I apologize. I don't have any details.
Honestly,
about
I didn't really care which way that went. And the reason why is, like, if they continued to allow masks in school, guess what? You got another incentive to get your kids out of school.
That's true. That's true.
So they're just doing the homeschoolers a favor by doing something like that if it passed.
I still feel bad for the poor kids that, their parents don't know enough to get them out of these day prisons.
Well, let's hope they have enough oxygen to figure it out on their own.
I feel like most parents who are letting the government, torture their kids just because it's the law, they're probably the ones that want their kids to wear masks. So they'd probably be having to wear masks
There's
anyway.
no saving those kids. And, like, their kids are not going to be taken away from the state because they're very, statist. They're very obedient to the state. So their kids are certainly, locked into them. They're not going to be taken away or anything by DCYF. Oh, he's wearing his mask. Okay, we'll leave. That's DCYF for you.
If you want to join the program here, you can weigh in. The number 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. 6160. There was some good news from the Senate. They did pass a bill that would apparently require the state of emergency. So if the governor calls a state of emergency, which we all had to go through this stupid crap 2 years ago, it will automatically terminate after 21 days and can be renewed only 3 times. Now,
so that's passed for sure now by both sides?
Well, it has been passed by the Senate and the House. It still requires the governor to sign it. So whether or not the governor will sign a thing that would limit his own power.
But as much as it sounds great, they're limiting it, they just basically legitimized it.
Well, no, he had an unlimited ability to do this before, and so now they are limiting it somewhat. It is still, he can still do 3 21-day
I get
segments.
that, but they've basically encouraged his illegal activities.
Well, no, it's legal under every state has a state of emergency system or whatever, the statutes. And now you could argue those statutes are unconstitutional.
Unconstitutional and against natural law, because you can't just wave a pen and suspend people's natural rights.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you there. And actually, if you looked at what Sununu wrote in a lot of the cases, like the so-called stay-at-home order that he came out with, there were some pretty big loopholes written into that. Like, you could leave the house if you felt the need to for whatever reason. I don't have the exact wording in front of me, but there was like a huge...
you're a free human being?
I mean, it didn't say that specifically, but yeah, basically, if you had a need to leave for some reason, whatever it was that was important to you, you could go out and do that.
Well, I really needed to go to his house and protest them.
Me too. I did, as a matter of fact.
Thank you, Ian.
In fact, next week, some of the people that were out at his house protesting in, I think it was December of 2020, are going on trial. They were called the Newfields Nine, and I thought we'd seen 8 of 9 of the cases, but there may still be a couple more. Skyler, who we've had on the show, it's been since last time he was on was before the raid, so it's been a while since I've seen him. He's got a trial, and I believe they actually arrested him for misdemeanor in that particular case, whereas everybody else got a ticket.
Was that the drone part?
I don't know if there was a drone involved in that one, but
I thought he got charged for that, flying the drone over. I'm not sure.
No, I don't think he's a drone guy.
Okay.
He was allegedly on Sununu's property, so he'd walked off the path next to Sununu's. That's the governor, for those that don't know.
They tried to say that he was in Sununu's backyard with a gun.
Yeah. So they arrested him on, I don't know if it was disorderly conduct or what it was, but he, I believe, has a trial next week in Brentwood, New Hampshire. It's going to be an 8 a.m. trial, but we're going to have to get up at 6 a.m. to get to this thing.
We ought to carpool or something, because that's far.
I plan on going to it, because I've gone out to all the Newfields 9 stuff, and that video is on the Free Keene channel. You can go to the Odyssey channel at video.freekeene.com. So again, there has been some restriction of what the governor can do. Maybe he'll sign this thing. That, again, remains to be seen at this point. So if you want to weigh in here on the New Hampshire Senate saying no to cannabis, I think we've covered that story. We're going to get into James Freeman, who's a cop block agent apparently from Arizona, and he confronted what looks like a town council or a city council of some sort about free speech.
Yes.
We'll get into that on the way. You saw this, Joe, and you said we ought to play it. So
it's hilarious.
That's what we're going to do. And I've not even seen this yet, so you'll get my reaction on the air. More coming up here. The number 603-283-6160. If you want to weigh in and share whatever is on your mind, you can take control of the airwaves here on Free Talk Live, 603-283-6160.
Fact. The new NSA data center in Utah requires 1.7 million gallons of water every single day to operate. Billions of Fourth Amendment violations need massive computers and the water to cool them. That water is being supplied by the state of Utah. Fact. There's absolutely nothing in the Constitution which requires your state to help the feds violate your rights. Our message to Utah: turn it off. No water equals no NSA data center. Visit offnow.org.
Is oral health important to you? If you don't like your own teeth, fresh breath, or kissing people, then by all means stop listening. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I became passionate about the product that she created and never want to live without it. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, but I find it does much more. They want you to love My Magic Mud as much as I do, so they're giving you a money-back guarantee plus 20% off. Go to mymagicmud.com and use coupon code FTL20 at checkout. mymagicmud.com, FTL20.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm. Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here, and I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio is great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
This is Free Talk Live. Phones are open. You can join us. 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. In the studio here tonight, we've got Ian.
And Bonnie.
And Joa.
And I did find the details on the bill that I was speculating aloud about. You had mentioned, Joa, that while you were watching the New Hampshire Senate debate and vote on stuff today, that something came up about mask mandates, and you weren't real clear on what the bill was.
I was taking a shower when I was listening to it, so
yeah,
to be honest.
And I said that it was actually to prohibit the school boards to mandate masks, and I thought that it had passed, and now I'm confirming here that it did pass. So according to granitegrok.com, Steve McDonald, in a blog post this afternoon, he says that the bill, which will prohibit school boards and other public education agencies from adopting or enforcing mandated face coverings, HB 1131, passed 14-10 in the Senate today. So it moves on to the governor's desk for hopefully a signature, but at this time we don't know what he's going to do about that.
And that's good because, school boards, they're really not well educated. They're following things to a real T, and they're really like, a
lot of them just do whatever the CDC says.
Yeah, I'll be frank. They're very Nazi-like, too. They're just so
Have you been
aggressive.
to any of their meetings?
No, but I've watched a few. I've seen people get dragged out of them.
Right,
but not
parents
wearing
getting
masks.
arrested over masks.
Crazy stories.
They separate people by disabled and not disabled, and the disabled section could be like up a flight of stairs.
Right.
That was the Timberlane district that arrested 2 parents last year for that, or for being maskless.
Or even the masked section. If you're wearing a mask, and there was like a bunch of empty seats and a bunch of like I would say 3 people without masks sat in the back where there was absolutely no maskers around, they were kicked out.
Mm-hmm.
It was just because in the wrong section.
Yeah, that was all in New Hampshire.
Segregation. That's what I call it.
So if we hear more about this, we'll bring it to you as it develops. But again, a couple of good points from the Senate today, and that is to say that they passed this thing which will prohibit mask mandates on school children. But unfortunately, they didn't pass any of the cannabis legislation, the decrim bill specifically. Let's go to James Freeman. This is a short video from Fake News Network. I guess that's his. Is that his channel?
That's his side channel from James Freeman. So.
And he's in a place called Mountain Air, and we speculated that this might be Arizona because you said you think he's from Arizona.
I just know he does audits. I just wasn't sure where he was from.
There is a Mountain Air city apparently in Arizona, but there's also
it's with an E at the end. It's like a census block or something
area.
like that. Yeah.
And then there's actually like a Mountain Air area of some sort in New Mexico, apparently southeast of Albuquerque. So
either way, he's driving distance and can make it to this.
Yeah, so he's in this place, and this is apparently some sort of a meeting that he comes to speak, and here it is. So you got people walking in. He's going up to the microphone.
I'll crouch now.
Got to adjust the mic.
He's a tall guy,
How you guys doing this evening? My name is James. I just wanted to talk about a couple of things. I know you guys have been having problems with your police department. Peter, I tried to reach out to you so we could talk about it in a more private forum, I guess, and talk about what options really are and aren't. You've never gotten back to me. I guess I'll give you my number again tonight. But it appears that you guys are...
Gee, what a surprise. A politician doesn't want to actually talk to a constituent about something.
Not surprised.
No accountability whatsoever.
Consistently had problems with your police. And the city, I guess people have talked about reforming your police department, and I just wanted to put it out there. Have you ever considered just completely abolishing them and using the sheriff? I don't know, these are some things I'm just throwing it out there. I don't know if it's even reasonable to do such a thing.
It's absolutely reasonable, and in fact, it's been done here in New Hampshire on a multitude of occasions. Yeah. The town, Westmoreland, actually, does not have a city cop. They used to.
Yeah.
It was probably like a decade ago that they voted to abolish the police department entirely.
Oh, yeah, and now Westmoreland is just the capital of murder in the whole world.
And they got, I drive through there, and there's usually a state trooper every once in a while there.
That's it.
But I would appreciate a sheriff, even though the sheriff arrested me on my birthday last year.
I wouldn't appreciate him unless you call him.
I mean,
you don't really need him around.
Exactly.
There's plenty of guns in Westmoreland. I mean, there's no cracked out guy climbing through a window with a machete in his hands because he knows he's going to get shot by somebody.
That was a joke about the murder capital of the world.
Yeah, because it's full of guns. I mean, there's literally it's a safe place because people are armed.
Yeah, it's like I was driving through the other day and I saw free stuff on the side of the road and there was gun parts just sitting there on the free on the side of the road. I was like, what?
Yeah, and it's not the only town in New Hampshire that has done this. There have been other towns that have abolished the police department. I was listening to Free State Live, the Monday night show they do.
Yeah.
I like to listen. I can't listen live. Obviously, we're on the air. They're a competitor, but later I do like to listen. And they had, I think it was Croydon. They had one of the activists from Croydon, New Hampshire on, and that was where they couldn't cut the police department budget or something because they couldn't fire the police chief. So what they did was they destroyed the entire department.
Yeah.
So there's all these government rules or unions, police unions that prohibited him from being fired.
Waiting for the kicker here.
But they you know the story. So they destroyed the entire department. So therefore they eliminated his position entirely.
Yes.
And the dude protested by walking home in his underwear.
Was it so much a protest? Because he had to give up all of his equipment,
but he didn't have to do
uniform.
it right then.
I know you're right. He could have wore because he had other uniforms at home.
Yeah, he could have taken off the gun and the badge, if something like that, and then just given back the uniform later.
But he wanted to
make
it
a scene.
as
a hissy fit.
I like it. Just seeing a cop walk down the street
in the wintertime
in underwear.
Yeah.
His wife ended up picking him up, I heard.
That's correct.
But that's like a hunger strike a little kid is
It's a
doing.
temper tantrum.
And
sure.
I've actually met that cop.
Really?
And he's very decent. I mean, look, he's still a cop.
Yeah.
But he was a decent human being. I won't go into details how I met him, but it was actually it wasn't bad. I'll tell you that. There was no charge.
Let's go back to James Freeman.
But I'm assuming the police department is a pretty big part of the city's budget. Is that right? Probably saved the town a lot of money, abolishing them and using the sheriff's department. I heard recently that Gustin's was robbed and your police were on duty and did nothing about it, and it was the sheriff that came out to help anyways. So, I mean, what are you guys paying for, right? Just something to throw out there. Also, did you know that the new female officer that was hired is on the Brady list? Were you guys aware of that?
Was that like their Lori list?
Yes.
You guys know that?
That's like a list of bad cops?
Yeah, he'll explain that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, do you know what the Brady list is?
Okay.
It means that a prosecutor won't take her cases because she's a liar.
Ooh.
Okay? So say your house does get robbed and she shows up to take the report, right? And they want to bring her in to testify in court so that you can prosecute the guy that robbed your house. Well, that's not going to work out because they can't use her testimony because she's dishonest and proven to be a lying bitch. Does that make sense?
That's awesome.
Please don't use comments like that. What's that? I said please don't use comments like that. Or what?
Oh.
All right, we'll adjourn this meeting.
We'll adjourn the meeting. Now, by the way, like your typical city council meeting, we don't see what the entire room looks like, but the chairs that are present are completely empty. So with the exception,
they're probably the only ones there.
Yeah, with the exception of the council themselves, there's literally no one here except for James Freeman and his camera guy.
That is such an example of fake morality. Like they didn't have any kind of reaction to that their cops didn't show up to a robbery.
Or that she is corrupt and not trustworthy.
You used a word that is a no-no. We will adjourn this meeting.
Right, we've got to protect the children who aren't in the room from watching.
Or ever listening to this.
Right, yeah, I love the idea of these politicians that kids actually pay attention to them. I forget who it was. I think it was, I don't know if it was Kamala Harris or one of these other national level politicians was talking about how, you know, the kids should be excited because now they can get their vaccination or something like that. And it was like as though some 4-year-old is paying attention to what this politician is saying. Yeah. Like, you know, they might be listening to Big Bird talk about it, but they're certainly not going to listen to
what little kid has ever been excited to get a vaccine anyway?
That's a good point.
Well, one of the things, too, is like, you know, a couple weeks ago I had my trial. Thank you guys for going, or you had your dentist.
Yeah, sure.
But thank you for going and filming that. I can't wait for the video to come out. But when that video comes out, you'll see the officer I had on the stand, he perjured himself. He said one thing and said another, right, on record. And maybe I can submit that to the Lori list. So the people who
I don't know who can submit. I think it's only the cops who can submit to that.
It didn't get the judge to tell him to go to jail right then or anything, did it?
Of course not.
Oh, yeah.
No, of course not.
Professional courtesy.
If I use free speech, is that what you're saying, Peter Nieto? Peter, if I wanted you to speak, I'd shove my arm up your rear end and go like this and make you speak.
He shows like a puppet.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to adjourn.
Have a good night, everybody. I'll sit down. Thank you.
I love it. James Freeman just really...
What do we got to do to get that guy up here to New Hampshire? Because
I know, I've been begging him.
It's always so frustrating to see these lone wolves out there in wherever we're talking about, whether it be New York or New Mexico or whatever. I mean,
yeah, like what are you going to do to change all of Albuquerque?
These are some of the best activists, but they're stuck all by themselves. I mean, he's lucky to even have a camera operator here.
Yeah, he's not to mention the Free State Project on his live last night.
There's more coming up here in moments. We'll continue. You can share your thoughts. This is Free Talk Live, Hour 2 next. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Kate Fisher. Russia has launched missile strikes on the Ukrainian capital city of Kyiv during a visit by the head of the United Nations. The attack happened barely an hour after Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky held a news conference with UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres. Our Kyiv correspondent Sergio Olmos reports.
We do hear air raid sirens every day. We heard them today. But when these strikes occurred, these loud explosions here in the capital, there was no air raid sirens. That added a bit of fear here in the capital that an attack can occur without the notification of an air raid siren. So while in other parts of the country, airstrikes, artillery strikes are much more common, especially in the east, here in the capital, there's been a kind of a lulling of a sense of normalcy tonight was just shattered, especially when the UN Secretary General is here visiting with the President of Ukraine. To have missile strikes in the city center on a residential building is just shocking.
Meanwhile, US President Joe Biden is asking the US Congress to approve more than $30 billion in new funding for security, economic and humanitarian assistance for Ukraine. Caroline Malone reports from Washington.
President Biden asked Congress to approve $33 billion in new aid for Ukraine on Thursday. That's another $20 billion in security assistance, $8.5 billion in economic aid, plus $3 billion for humanitarian and food security funding. That's in addition to the billions of dollars in Ukraine-related assistance already approved in March, which Biden says has nearly been spent.
This so-called supplemental funding addresses the needs of the Ukrainian military during the critical weeks and months ahead.
The request for funds now goes to Capitol Hill alongside proposals to support the economy, and at a time when lawmakers are already divided over new pandemic funding.
Ukrainians are being turned back at the US-Mexico border following the launch of a new US refugee sponsorship program. Many are being sent to shelters in Mexico City while their asylum claims are processed. Our US correspondent Ira Spitzer has more.
The new U.S. policy has taken some Ukrainians by surprise who had hoped to fly to Mexico on tourist visas and cross into the U.S. over the land border, something that more than 20,000 Ukrainians have done since the Russian invasion began. While the U.S. says it plans to accept as many as 100,000 Ukrainian refugees, the new requirements include a U.S.-based sponsor who can provide financial support. Ukrainians at the border are now in the same position as other refugees. As a result of the Title 42 policy to limit the spread of COVID-19, no one is allowed to claim asylum at the U.S.-Mexico border at the moment.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today we're taking another look at the Solomon Islands. We've mentioned before that China recently signed an agreement with the government of the Pacific Island nation that the US bitterly opposes. Last weekend, one of President Biden's top national security officials travelled to the Solomon Islands and warned the country's government of consequences if they allow China to establish a military base. But what do Solomon Islanders themselves make of Prime Minister Manasseh Sogavah's decision to sign the agreement with Beijing? Jim Lindsay is with the New York-based Council on Foreign Relations.
Sogavah was elected prime minister back in 2019. Once he came into office, he almost immediately broke ties with Taiwan. Now, this is what Solomon Islanders refer to as the switch. Now, there remains a lot of support in the Solomon Islands for maintaining ties with Taipei. And again, the belief is that the switch happened because a lot of Chinese mainland money was sloshing around. There certainly doesn't appear to be a lot of sympathy among Solomon Islanders for China. A poll was done last year. It found that 91% of Solomon Islanders wanted the country to work closely with democratic countries, not with China.
The Solomon Islands government knows it's made a controversial choice, the Prime Minister saying this week that he couldn't release the details of the agreement with China without Beijing's permission. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
Our main news again. Russia has launched missile strikes on the Ukrainian capital of Kyiv during a visit by the head of the United Nations. US President Joe Biden is asking Congress to approve more than $30 billion in new funding for assistance for Ukraine. And Ukrainians are being turned back at the US-Mexico border following the launch of a new US refugee sponsorship program. And that's the latest feature story news. Kate Fisher reporting.
Like many young inner-city students, Chicago area high school sophomore Brandy Perkins struggles every day to motivate her teachers. The frustrated 16-year-old talked to Onion reporters this morning to discuss the challenges she faces in reaching out to her underperforming educators.
Connecting with the teachers gets harder and harder every year. We all come in every morning eager to learn, but most of the teachers just seem completely uninterested in education. One of my teachers, Miss Manley, has been particularly hard to work with. She was quiet at first, but she showed some potential. I thought maybe she just needed a little time to come out of her shell, but as the weeks went by, she just sat there listlessly at her desk, never talking or participating. It just makes you feel so helpless.
For more on this story, check this week's Onion Review.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. You can join us here. The number 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. You can bring up whatever is on your mind. Whoa, sorry. That was a little louder than I expected it to be. We'll get to that clip here in a moment. Here tonight, it's Ian.
It's Bonnie.
And Joa.
We're also going to go to your calls and thoughts about whatever is on your mind. Coming up, the Central African Republic is now accepting Bitcoin, or at least they're apparently acknowledging Bitcoin as a legal tender.
And is that a country?
Yes, it is. I had a similar response as you, Bonnie. I had never heard of the Central African Republic, but there's a lot of countries there in Africa. So, hopefully,
huge.
Yeah, we could be forgiven if we didn't know what all of them were. But we'll get to that story coming up here. Your calls and thoughts first. We go to Phil. He's in California. Phil, you're on Free Talk Live. Go ahead.
Hi. I just was just curious about the fires at food production plants. I've heard a lot about it, but I don't know. I'm pretty ignorant about the whole situation.
Yeah,
so I'm just wondering from your guys.
I didn't get all the details. It was on the Sunday show. Captain Kickass covered the topic. We did talk about it briefly on Saturday. Basically, there's a list of food processing plants that have mysteriously caught fire or had like a airplane. I guess two of them had a plane crash into them.
Craziness.
That is crazy.
It's within like the last few years, so it didn't all happen in the last month or something like that.
Still very strange.
But maybe it is strange.
I've also seen people saying the opposite way to look at it. A lot of people have been saying stuff like a fire happening in a place will get reported in this whole thing, but a fire happening isn't the same as like a building burning to dust,
The
only place that I heard it
airplane?
at... Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you guys, but an airplane hit
that
a food processing plant?
is really crazy. Apparently two. That makes it even more weird.
I could see one maybe. But two, that's insane.
That's really suspect.
I'm sorry. I'll let you guys get on this. I just wanted to say I will be at Fork Fest, and
cool.
I'm bringing my alphabet friend, and hopefully we can get a convert.
What is your alphabet friend?
It's my girlfriend, but she's very much into. I met her because she dated my best friend who's a lesbian. So.
I thought you meant alphabet as in like agency, like FBI.
That's what I thought you meant. That she works for the government.
No, not at all. But she's very much into the cult of, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. I don't want to label it the wrong way. But
I have no idea what you're referring to.
There are lots of people that are gay, lesbian, trans at
No,
Forkfest.
it's not that she's gay. It's not that she's gay. She's just part of the, I don't know,
the support
like
group.
woke.
Antifa type.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, maybe
okay.
she'll, meet new people, start, a
I think
seed
they're
of thinking
prime
differently.
of converting. Honestly, I think they have the right mindset. Not the right mindset. The right heart, not the right mindset. So their means to their ends are not accurate to what a peaceful ends would look like. So I do think that they have a chance, and once they learn sort of morality and not so convinced by the mob rule of sorts, I think you can learn that you're an individual and make individual choices. Even though they say that Antifa is not.
What's that, Phil?
Oh no, her friends, yeah. But is also, I was just wondering, would Forkfest be a place I could bring my mom?
Yeah, it's a campground. So if mom likes to see beautiful mountains,
it's for everybody.
Campground. Yeah. Forkfest is a much more laid-back alternative to the Porcupine Freedom Festival. At least that's how it has historically been. For all I know, it'll blow up this year. I have no idea. But it's usually a fraction of the amount of people, so it's usually pretty relaxed.
Porkfest is pretty packed.
Porkfest is over 3,000 tickets sold at this point. So, and apparently they're still selling them. I'm not sure how they're planning on packing everybody in there, but it's going to be a crazy year.
You won't see me there.
You said will not or will?
Will not.
Will not. Okay.
101 reasons.
I got you.
Why not to go?
I'm looking forward to it. I hope that I'm able to go, but I got to get my probation officer to let me off this ankle monitor.
Well, I'm going to call him and be like, don't let him go so we can party here.
Not even allowed to party, Joe.
Yeah.
Phil, look forward to seeing you. Hopefully somebody will be there from Free Talk Live, and I appreciate your call tonight, man. Thanks. So if you want to learn more about Forkfest, you can do that over at forkfest.party. It is going to be the 6th annual Forkfest, and it is a decentralized libertarian camping festival that happens here in New Hampshire. Are you planning on going to Forkfest?
I may. I'm not 100% yet on that either.
I really want to do karaoke.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was doing karaoke the whole time.
Nice.
Really?
I like to say I never go to Porkfest. I just go to Forkfest. Just happens to be at the same time.
There are some who argue that Forkfest is all the 2 weeks, and
exactly.
There's nothing official about Forkfest, so you can be Forkfest whenever you want it to be.
But like when Porkfest ended, I had more fun at Forkfest.
Did you really?
Yeah, it was a little bit tighter group of people and
a little more intimate.
Yeah, I would say so. Every day you run into someone new at Porkfest, and it's like, oh, I can't remember any of these people's names. But when you're at Forkfest, you're with the same people because it's smaller, and you just get more of that family vibe with it. Versus the sporadicness of Porkfest.
Yeah, the Porcupine Freedom Festival is so big, you can know that someone is there and never see them because there's 3,000 people there.
Yep.
You're there for a whole week and you never see them. But on the other hand, you'll also see an S ton of people that you haven't seen before.
Yeah, last year I got there 2 days before Porkfest, and I left. I was the first one there, and I was the first one to leave Forkfest, so I was there for the whole shebang.
Yeah, to go back though to his topic about these food processing facilities. My main question is, are there more food processing facilities that are catching on fire than normal? Because, when you deal with manufacturing places, somebody's going to drop something. They're going to get something's going to happen.
A thread I saw was this girl was saying, a lot of people keep talking about this, but a lot of these fires getting reported are literally just like a fire that started and got put out quickly. So there's that.
Oh, so it's not taking the whole place down?
Apparently the number, say there's 23. Apparently some of those were just fires that were put out right away, or didn't take the whole place down. But it is really, really suspect that 2 airplanes hit a food processing plant. But my main question is, what kind of food processing plant is this? Because is this world going to end if we don't stop? If we suddenly can't get processed foods?
That's a good point.
I try not to eat processed foods. It's really hard.
Yeah, that's a good point. Those are generally considered to be not as good for you. Obviously, meat and other things do have to be processed. They've got to be cut up and put into packaging and moved out the door or whatever. So
all I know is that when I go to the grocery store, I stay on the outside. aisles.
Because that's the better areas, right?
Yeah, typically it's the healthier food. It's not the processed inner portion of the grocery store.
We always end up not going or getting anything from like the aisle. We go through all the aisles. We never end up even getting anything from the aisle with all the juices and jellos or crackers and cookies.
Cereal.
Yeah, cereal.
All right, so we're going to continue here. Your calls and thoughts are welcome. There's not a lot of detail out yet, but apparently the Central African Republic, which is one of the landlocked nations in Africa, so there's no coastline. It's east of Cameroon. They have become the second nation in the world, this according to Coindesk.com, to adopt Bitcoin as a legal tender. So El Salvador was first. They did that in September of last year. Now, Central African Republic, according to a statement from the president, Faustin Arcang Touadera's office, the National Assembly passed, and he has now signed the bill drafted by the Minister of Digital Economy and the Minister of Finance and Budget. The legislation established a legal and regulatory framework for cryptocurrencies and made Bitcoin legal tender alongside the existing CFA franc. So it sounds like we'll have to look up the CFA franc and see exactly what that is.
What you just said there, you said regulatory agency on crypto. Like this might be interesting news, but I don't think it's good news.
Yeah,
I don't like government getting involved.
Can we see the whole? Is there a way to see the whole thing he signed? Yeah, because I mean, we know that there was all kinds of bad little Easter eggs in the El Salvador one.
Well, the bad part, the worst part about El Salvador was they mandated the acceptance of Bitcoin. And I'll see if we can figure that out whether that's in here. It looks like it's written in French, so I don't know if we're going to easily be able to determine what this thing actually says. But I'll dig around. Oh, do you speak French?
No.
People say we usually don't speak French.
All right, more coming up here in moments. You want to join us? Can do that. Bring up what you want. It's Free Talk Live. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover springs her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked with bringing the pair to justice. An easy enough job until they discover something is inside Emma Jean, and the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. The Family Business by Mike Coopery from BaneBooks.com.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
Are you tired of governments around the world killing innocent people? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin is money that cannot be inflated or controlled by any state. By continuing to use their money, you're perpetuating the killing. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available to you now. Learn it, use it, spread it.
Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. It's Bitcoin.com.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market. Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. Physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
How many lawyers does it take to change a light bulb? None. They'd rather keep their clients in the dark. There are too many lawyer jokes to count. However, there are some lawyers with more noble intentions. At the Institute for Justice, we bring the light to our clients. We are a non-profit public interest law firm with clear values and principles. At IJ, we fight for those whose most basic rights are denied by the government. Visit our website today at ij.org.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live. Ian, Bonnie, and Joa here in the studio tonight. If you want to join us, you can do that. The number is 603-283-6160. We're talking about the government of the Central African Republic passing some sort of legislation to make Bitcoin legal tender. Now, what we are not sure of, and it's relatively hard to determine because the Central African Republic is a French-speaking country, so the legislation is in French, and I don't see an easy, quick way to clear this up as to what this actually says. But that is something I do want to find out. If you know the answer or if you can point us in the right direction, we'll see if we can figure it out over the show when we get the chance to look during the breaks as to whether or not there is a mandate included in this legislation, meaning are business owners in Central African Republic going to be forced at the threat of violence to accept Bitcoin, or is it going to be a voluntary choice and the government is simply acknowledging Bitcoin as a thing, as something that is legal to use? And you bring up an important question, Joe. Our typical understanding of the term legal tender, at least in the United States parlance, means that it is something that can be or must be accepted for debts, public and private.
Right.
So if you have if you owe me money, then in the United States, I have to accept, under the threat of violence from the government, I have to accept payment in the dollar.
At least the federal government.
For that debt. Correct. Yeah, for that debt. And that's what legal tender means here. But that doesn't mean, and we learned this when the guys from AnyPay, Derek and Steven, were running the Bitcoin shop for a couple years out in Portsmouth, where they refused payment in the dollar. You could not buy anything in the store with dollars. You had to use cryptocurrency to buy. And the argument there is, well, it's not a debt.
Right.
So since you don't owe us a debt, we can require you to pay in whatever we want you to pay.
Right.
We can require you to do jumping jacks. We can require you to pay in cryptocurrency. We just don't want the dollar. So it'll be interesting to see how this,
dirty money.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. Let's go to your phone calls and thoughts, though. Jeff is on the line in Oregon, listening to KCUP. Go ahead, Jeff.
Hey, thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
You guys were talking a little earlier about the government employees that were going to be, if they committed suicide, it was going to be considered in a line of duty.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking that's about insurance, because I don't think most insurance policies will pay out benefits on suicide.
That makes sense.
They classify it as killed in the line of duty, then they'll pay out the benefits.
Sneaky.
And I think that's what it is. And I'm kind of upset that it's just government employees, because obviously people that are stressed and commit suicide, I don't think it has to do with who they work for.
Yeah, that's a great point. Well, of course, it's the government's able to easily make those changes, and they, of course, probably it's very hard to call them on it.
No,
but
I'm thinking really bad here, okay, for a second. But like, what if, let's just say, one of these government employees had some secrets, and they're like, hey, you know, you're not going to keep your job, you're not going to be able to support your family, so probably just go kill yourself.
And now they can get the benefits out of it.
Yeah.
This is what loan sharks do to people, you know?
Great point, Jeff. Anything else you want to share tonight?
No, that's it. Thanks for taking my call.
Thanks for bringing that up,
Appreciate you
dude.
guys.
Appreciate it. The number here is 603-283-6160. So back to the sub-Saharan African country, the Central African Republic. It is now saying that it will be accepting legal tender, or, I mean, maybe they're going to accept it. It's not really clear what's going to happen here, but supposedly Bitcoin is now legal tender alongside the CFA franc. And, of course, it made me wonder, what is the CFA franc? There's a bunch of different currencies run by governments in the world. And according to Wikipedia, there are two types of CFA francs. So it's called the Central African franc, and it is the currency of 6 independent states in Central Africa: Cameroon, Central African Republic, Chad, the Republic of Congo, Equatorial Guinea, and Gabon. So these 6 countries have 55 million people between them.
Is it connected to France? Because I know that France used to have the franc. I don't know if they still do or if they only use the euro.
Yeah, I think these were former colonies of France.
Yeah, they speak a lot of French speaking, yeah.
It was introduced to the French colonies in 1945, replacing the French Equatorian African franc. And it says that there was something here that said that things dropped in value like 99.9% compared to the French franc. So just like every centralized
Zimbabwe,
government money, not quite as bad, but just like all the centralized government monies, this is being printed at a crazy rate. Inflated, right? The currency is being inflated, and that, of course, is stealing the value out from under the people of the Central African Republic. And because it's not even their currency, right? Like it's some sort of a group of countries coming together to make this central bank currency.
Yeah.
And that's really unusual. It's created by the Bank of Central African States. It's a central bank that serves 6 Central African countries, which form the economic and monetary community of Central Africa.
Why do they? I wonder why they still call it the franc. Like, I'm just wondering, is it connected to France still, or just not at all, and they just kept the name?
People are like, oh, Canadian dollar, right? But it's not really a dollar. It's just that people are recognizing the word, so that's just probably what they were translating.
Well, you ask a good question, Bonnie, and that is something that
is France in control of these countries still?
I don't know what level of influence they have. I mean, those are all good questions for somebody that knows.
I've seen those maps in the past where, these origin countries are still in control
to some level.
And this whole conversation, since the beginning of this conversation in the last segment, has been making me think, man, I really wish I kind of want to learn a different language and not be speaking English. Like, that's it's annoying that we're speaking the language of,
A lot of people around the world are multilingual, and it makes me feel pretty ignorant when
that's one
I hear
aspect. But also, it's just like we're speaking the language of the people that try to control us. A lot of people say still control us. A lot of people say the United States federal government is incorporated with England.
Yeah.
Oh, I've heard that theory. Yeah, I don't know if there's any truth to it, but it's interesting.
Does make me want to stop speaking
we got
English.
the Bar Association.
Well, they say that might stand for British Accredited Registry, but I don't really know if that's true.
Or like the Federal Reserve has British board members or other foreign board members.
They definitely control Canada outright.
Oh, Britain?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They're just subjects.
Their military, the military is controlled by Britain.
Yep, that's true. Certainly some of the Caribbean nations are still run by Britain and the Netherlands and such, so it wouldn't surprise me if they were still involved in Africa, but I don't know. Put that in
perspective, too, and be like the U.S. Virgin Islands, How much real control do we have there, but other than putting the label on it? Like, Puerto Rico is very independent in many ways, but they somehow joined the United States and have some bennies, but I don't know.
Yep, they've got it's like Mark, our co-host, went out to Saipan, which is the capital city out in it's not Guam, it's the why am I forgetting what they're called right now? The islands that aren't Guam.
Territory?
No, I'm just
Mariana.
Thank you, the U.S. Marianas. and they're a territory, so it's not quite a state. And in a lot of cases in Puerto Rico, they've asked the question, "Do you want to join the United States as a state?" The people say no.
Yeah, forget about that.
Yeah, I remember
we don't want a Walmart here.
My Puerto Rican friends in middle school, when there was this one time that they were going to vote, I was like, "Oh, so what do you guys think about that? It could be the 51st state." They're like, "My parents don't want that," and I was shocked.
That's up to you to decide here if you want to join us and comment. The number 603-283-6160. You want to weigh in? Maybe you know something more about Africa and you can help us with that.
I just heard the best sales pitch I've heard in a long time on an airplane. The flight attendant announced, "If you paid more than $75 for your round-trip ticket, you overpaid." This is brilliant because everybody on the flight paid more, and I was struck by how all the road warriors stopped typing and reading and working and looked up. The announcement invited us to apply for the airline's credit card, and the sign-up bonus, enough frequent flyer miles for a free round trip. Talk about turning lemons into lemonade. With some banks offering free credit cards, $75 is an outrage for an annual fee, but a bargain for airline tickets. For more tips on communicating more effectively, hit survivalspeech.com, where you can see how I got the CEO of another major airline to shower me with freebies. I'm Holland Cook.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I'm Ira Spitzer. U.S. President Joe Biden is asking the U.S. Congress to approve more than $30 billion in new funding of security, economic, and humanitarian assistance for Ukraine. President Biden said the funding was necessary to help Ukrainian forces defeat Russian attacks over the coming months. Here's FSN's U.S. correspondent Nina Maria Potts on the domestic challenges the U.S. president may face.
President Biden today making a real point of saying that he had not sent in troops, and he very much rejected Russian allegations of a proxy war.
They're not true. They do concern me because it shows the desperation that Russia is feeling about their abject failure in being able to do what they set out to do in the first instance.
While half of Americans in recent polling say that Russia poses a significant threat to the U.S., you know, that $33 billion US number is a huge amount of money to announce on a day when the economic numbers are clearly faltering, rents are skyrocketing, and inflation is really beginning to bite.
Meanwhile, Ukrainian officials say that Russia fired 2 missiles at the Ukrainian capital of Kyiv, striking a residential building complex and injuring at least 10 people. The strike came during a visit by the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres to the city to meet with Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky. Correspondent Sergio Olmos is in Kyiv.
The visit today, there wasn't high expectations for it. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres was criticized by Ukrainian officials for going to Moscow before coming here. President Zelensky said there are no dead bodies in the streets in Moscow. If he wanted to see the effects of the war, he should come to Ukraine first. Indeed, tonight he did come to Ukraine and he did see some of those signs of occupation. But as their meeting concluded, explosions in the city center, the Russian armed forces sending a message as the world's top diplomat meets with Ukrainian president to discuss peace. Attacks just kilometers from where those talks were taking place. So that's what we're hearing tonight in Kyiv on the 64th, going into the 64th night of the invasion.
On Wall Street, stocks surged back on Thursday following a strong earnings report from Facebook's parent company, Meta Platforms. It lifted technology and growth stocks and offset worries about the U.S. economy's contraction in the first quarter. FSN's U.S. correspondent Kate Fisher reports.
The tech-heavy Nasdaq added 3.1%, the S&P 500 gained 2.5%, and the Dow Jones rose around 1.8%. Meta shares surged after the social network reported a larger-than-expected profit and rebounded from a drop in users.
From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
This is Free Talk Live. The phones are open here, and you can join us at 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Here tonight, you've got Ian.
And Bonnie.
And Joa.
Don't forget, you can join us online anytime at freetalklive.com. And I want to say thanks to David R. Jeffries, who is a platinum-level supporter of the Free Talk Live AMPS program. It's a Patreon that you can join over at amps.freetalklive.com. You can sign up there, use your PayPal, your debit card, your credit card to help us advertise, market, promote, and support Free Talk Live, to help Free Talk Live get on more radio stations around the country and bring new internet listeners on board, exposing the ideas of freedom to more people. If you think that's worth $5 a month, that's all we're asking for. David Jeffries is doing way more than that. Platinum is $25 a month. So thank you, David, for that. We appreciate it. But again, you can join for $5 a month over at amps.freetalklive.com.
Thanks, David.
Yeah, that's amps.freetalklive.com. I just looked up, by the way, the Central African Republic on the Fraser Institute Index of Human Freedom. Now, the Index of Human Freedom looks at both economic and personal freedom, and they kind of come up with an overall human freedom score based on various different factors, right? This is a 435-page document, so if you really want to dig into the details on how they calculate this stuff and get all the data, you can do that. But Central African Republic is one of the bottom 25 countries on the planet as far as freedom is concerned. Between 2018 and 2019, and these things are done yearly, but the data trails by 2 years. So the 2021 edition is data from 2019. So from the previous year's version, which was 2018, and through this year's version, Central African Republic actually dropped 8 points, dropped 8 places, I guess, on the list of freedom.
Freedom overall?
Least free countries. Yeah, so this is overall, but they look at both economic and human freedom. They come up with a separate score for each, and then they average that out to economic and personal freedom, then they average out a human freedom score. Central African Republic is number 147 out of 165 countries.
Yikes.
How does that look in Africa? Because don't they break it down by continent?
No, they don't break it down by continent, but you could go through the list and you could determine how they are compared to other African countries. And you do make me wonder, what is the highest ranking African country? Offhand, I don't know what that is.
You should tell us what is right above it and right below it.
Some other African countries, actually. So
I would say South Africa is definitely above it. Just 'cause
South Africa is above
money.
it. Yeah, that's true. I don't even see South Africa in this part of the chart here, but immediately above it is next door neighbor Cameroon, which is known for. We actually had a caller from Cameroon named Akko who used to call in. It's been years since we've heard from him. I hope he's well. But they're in Cameroon. They
Didn't
fight.
he have to walk for like a whole day to get somewhere to call you?
He took a bus.
Holy cow!
It was like
dedication right there.
I think it was like an hour-long ride at least, if not longer, to get into the big city in Cameroon to buy a prepaid internet card and borrow a friend's laptop to actually call the show.
Oh my God!
So amazing dedication there. They were fighting in Cameroon over language. So there's English speakers, or they call them Anglophones, and French speakers, Francophones, fighting each other, and the government there is French, and they're trying to oppress the English speakers by doing things like not allowing English-speaking people to have an English-speaking attorney if they get charged with a crime. So you have to, you don't speak French, but they give you a French-speaking attorney.
Wow.
You don't get a translator, I don't think. You might be able to hire one, but what's the average? Can the average person standing in front of a court hire anybody to do anything?
Probably not.
No,
I can't.
And if you think the people at the district court here in Keene are poor, try an African country.
Sure.
Right?
They railroad you.
These are some of the poorest people on the planet. In fact, the story here from is this CoinMarketCap.com. says that in the Central African Republic, which is now supposedly making Bitcoin legal tender, they have an incredibly poor bunch of people there. It's one of the world's poorest countries. Only 11% of the population in the Central African Republic have access to the internet.
Wow.
So how are they going to use Bitcoin?
Great point.
Well, Starlink, right?
But they don't have, they can't afford Starlink. They don't have the money for that. Right? They're incredibly poor. There's no internet infrastructure. Certainly Starlink could work there, But I mean, have you bought a Starlink before? It's $500 just to get the.
And it's $100 a month after. That's like really cheap internet for the speeds and everything.
For us, it's cheap.
But what I could see is like a cafe opening up with the Starlink.
Yeah, and that might happen.
With solar panels. Yeah. I mean, theoretically, like I feel like the availability is going to go up for them very soon.
I hope so. I mean, it certainly can't hurt to allow people to legally use Bitcoin in Central African Republic. But on the other hand, you know, this seems like a very corrupt place. And so it wouldn't surprise me if there were some dirty reasons why this was getting done rather than, oh, this is going to help the people. I suspect that the people in government there are not all about helping people. They're probably about taking advantage of them.
We can only assume that, but like,
because they're government, it's a safe assumption.
The only thing I'm thinking of, like last time a big money changing type deal going down in Africa was with Gaddafi in Libya, and look what they did to him. They took him out. They assassinated him. I mean, he's not a great guy, but the thing is that he was trying to convert Africa into gold, like a gold-backed currency. So I'm wondering, is a hit out for whoever's getting this done? I don't know.
Well, we know that the International Monetary Fund has taken issue with El Salvador's law. They're upset about it. They're going to deny El Salvador stuff over that. So,
IMF anyway. Is taking action. This time, good time to buy, guys.
Yeah, indeed. So that's basically the story. There's not a lot of detail. I could not easily find a translation of the law, so we don't exactly know what it says. If you speak French and you can help us determine what this actually says, I'm still curious to know about it. But one minister did say that the cryptocurrencies do have the potential to simplify the process of sending funds to the Central African Republic, and that much is definitely true. And that's one of the points that Nayib Bukele, the president of El Salvador, made, was that making it Bitcoin legal tender would make it so that people can easily send remittances in without using companies like Western Union or MoneyGram. And that does ultimately save people money, and that means more money can go into the pocket of the person receiving the remittance.
Well, I do appreciate that the convenience factor is on their minds, and that's really where they're going at with this. And maybe so they don't have to deal with international banks and stuff like that, which IMF would probably want to get involved in that. But, you know, people are just generally trying to make their lives easier. Let them do it.
Well, if 11% of people have access to the internet, I bet the governments of the world aren't going to really see this as a threat as much as Gaddafi changing his currency into gold-backed currency, because, I mean, this isn't going to go over very well if 11% of people have access to the internet.
Yeah, you may be right, Bonnie, that they may not see this as a threat, but they should, because now it ain't just one country, it's two. I mean, this could very well be the next domino falling, and it could be, it could be by the end of this year, 5 countries. Yeah. I mean, who knows?
I look at like the website boom, and all these countries and all these cartels are buying up all the 3- and 4-digit website.coms. Yeah. And now, like, if there are any available now, which I don't know, all of them are bought out by the cartels. And then, so you got to buy all this stuff from cartels now.
Do you mean like drug cartels or like the governments?
No, like actual cartels are buying 3 and 4 like numerical or digit websites, so that you would only could buy that, like if you wanted FTL.com at one time, that might have been owned by a cartel, and you had to buy it through them for a lot of money.
Are you talking about drug cartels?
Yes, yeah, like
I've never heard
because
that.
government cartels are also real cartels.
I mean, it would seem more likely to be that it would just be some internet geeks that would have done that in the early days.
Well, they saw a trend occurring and they just bought into it, like anybody else, But they were smart enough to do this.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I have never heard that story. If you want to weigh in, you can join us here at 603-283-6160. You can bring up anything you want. It's definitely true that getting a 3-letter domain name is pretty much impossible unless you've got $1 million and you want to buy one that somebody else already has. 603-283-6160. You can bring up whatever is on your mind. On the way, the lockdowns in Shanghai are in something like day number 40-some, 50. We're nearing 50 days of people being locked down. Plus, Bonnie wants to talk about student loans. Are they going to be waived by the federal government, gang? There's more coming up here. This is Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live.
For the listeners, each talk show has like a, you're in the Joe Blow Army, or, the Ditto Heads. Do the lefties have it too?
I couldn't tell you.
Ed Heads, isn't?
Yep, Ed Heads.
Yeah, Ed Heads. So they all have them. I really want
I'd
to
like
hear
to
from
rename
you.
our listeners Mindless Free Talk Live Zombies. What do you think?
Free Talk Live automatons.
Call in if you're a mindless Free Talk Live zombie.
What does it mean to you to be left? What does it mean to you
Progressive.
to be right? What does it mean to you to be conservative? What does it mean to you to be liberal? I think they're very vague concepts that pit people against one another. Many people who otherwise, in the absence of being able to plaster themselves with that label, might find out they've got an awful lot in common.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern. Live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
I'm a little obsessed with My Magic Mud. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, the founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I didn't even know my teeth were coffee stained. A week's worth of use convinced me, and now I use it every 3 or 4 days. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, and I think it cleans better, too. My Magic Mud's available at most local health food stores, Sprouts, Natural Grocers, CVS, Walmart's Natural Beauty Aisle, but I can get it for you for 20% off with coupon code FTL20 at mymagicmud.com. FTL20 mymagicmud.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
Hi, I'm Derek J. To me, an activist's calling is to actively work to advance a cause. The cause for which I work is personal freedom. I believe my life is best when I engage in voluntary interactions and self-government. I reject the idea that anyone else has a higher claim to my life or my body than I do. I see people who call themselves the government as a threat to my personal freedom. I realize you may feel differently, but my relationship with the people who call themselves the government is completely involuntary. If Starbucks used some of its money to drop bombs, I wouldn't shop there. So why would I support the American empire? The empire does not require my consent.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com. That's victimlesscrimespree.com. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
There are basically 2 types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live, phones open if you want to join us. 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Ian, Bonnie, Joa here tonight. You can join us online anytime at freetalklive.com. We have a social media platform, and you can join it over at social.freetalklive.com. There's no crazy waiting list to get in. Although we do have to approve accounts manually just because there's a lot of spammers.
Yeah.
And I figured we let it it was open season for a while, but I'd have to go in every now and then and just wipe out spammer after spammer after spammer. And so rather than doing that, we locked down the signups, so where somebody just has to press the approve button now. But it's not going to be a long wait usually for you to get approved, unlike Truth Social, where people are still waiting for months to get into. Apparently, Trump has finally truthed on his Truth Social account.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Was it anything funny?
Yeah, he used Kofifi.
Oh my god.
So that's kind of funny. Anyway,
I forgot about that.
I could use some right now.
But Trump botched this Truth Social thing so hard. He could have just left his site being normal Mastodon and have it to where you can access him from other Mastodons, but you can't do that. He wants you to join his site in order to do that, and I'm sorry. Number one, I'm not allowed to by the federal government. But number two, I've got enough social media going on. But if I could, I would have followed him through the Mastodon system.
Right.
Not because I really like the guy, but because he's entertaining.
Yeah.
But no, can't do that through Truth Social. So sorry. But our system is federated, which means that any other Mastodon server that hasn't purposefully disconnected from us, you can find us that way. So if you're already on Mastodon, you can follow anybody that's on the Free Talk Live social media site. Social.freetalklive.com will take you there. Let's go to your calls and thoughts. We got Lindsay calling from New Hampshire. You're on Free Talk Live, Lindsay.
Hi there.
Hey.
I'm sitting here with my good friend, and we're talking about the COVID vaccine. And she encouraged me to call in because I feel like maybe I have a slightly unusual story, possibly.
Sure. Let's hear it.
Thanks. I am strongly pro COVID vaccine. I have had 4. And I really did not want to get COVID, and to my knowledge, I have not. Although I can't seem to get an antibody test to verify that. But anyway, that's not the point. Way back, like March 2 years ago, it became possible to get an early COVID vaccine through a community access program. And I stood in line and I got one. It was the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. And then we kind of stopped hearing about the efficacy of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, and I was not convinced that I was good to go at that point. So I wanted to get the Pfizer vaccine. And I already had a vaccine card for Johnson & Johnson, but I figured maybe that it might be more expedient if I just didn't mention that I had previously gotten a vaccine, because they were really doling them out. They were not. You could just walk into any drugstore and get one, but you kind of had to jump through some hoops, and it was pretty frustrating. And I was like, I just want to be vaccinated more than I am.
What convinced you into getting it from one company versus another? Did you actually do your own research, scientifically on these things, or it was just because social media? What was your motivation into getting that?
Well, the first vaccine I got was just availability. It was only possible to get Johnson & Johnson. I didn't qualify for any other form of obtaining it because I was in no category where I could obtain it. So anyway, I got Johnson & Johnson. But for the second one, for Pfizer and Moderna, as far as doing my own scientific research, I struggled with it. It was not social media driven. It was that I didn't feel adequately satisfied with what I was reading, with the information I could find about the efficacy of the vaccine I already had. And as far as comparing Pfizer versus Moderna, I found it really challenging to find information.
Well,
it would
be hard to find that. It would be hard to find the information,
right?
Especially when they're experimenting on you right there and then. So the only results that you would hear about are things that are going to come maybe years from now.
I'm wondering why, Lindsay. I mean, you sound relatively young. You mentioned that you didn't qualify in a lot of ways to get some of these things. I mean, you don't have to tell us how old you are, but are you in your 20s, your 30s? 40s?
My late 30s.
Late 30s. Okay. Why did you feel this was so necessary for you?
Well, frankly, because I felt quite scared. So a couple of reasons. I want to get pregnant, and I was frightened by stories that I had heard, admittedly, on social media, but whatever. I wasn't going out. I wasn't talking to anybody. So I was frightened by stories that I had heard of pregnant women having complications in their pregnancies because of having COVID at the same time, and even pregnant women who had died of COVID And I was like, I don't want that.
Have you heard on the contrary the stories of pregnant women having problems who have had the vaccine?
That information wouldn't have come out yet when she was looking to get the second
thing,
because she was part of the experiment. So
I went to my doctor and I asked for information, and my doctor said, I'm sorry, we don't have that information. So that was a pretty hard thing. Like, I wasn't just clicking around on the internet.
Well, that's an honest answer.
So you did realize
I think we kind of messed up her, like she was telling the story. Like she was telling her unique thing that happened to her. So.
Thanks, Bonnie. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So I got my Pfizer number 1, and the way that I picked Pfizer was basically just like reading the abstracts of sites that I could get to online, but with everything paywalled, like pretty much all you can do is read abstracts. Anyway, so I did that, and I concluded that Pfizer versus Moderna, 6 to 1, half a dozen the other. All right, I'm going to get Pfizer. And the second, so that's a 2-dose vaccine. The first one, I pretty much lied and said that I had never been vaccinated, and so they were only too willing to give me a slot. And I was like, all right, cool. Come back in 3 weeks, and I did. And this whole time, like, I don't want to tell them that I've already had a previous COVID vaccine because I don't want them to prevent me from completing this course, because I prefer to do this for my own health. And I kind of slipped up, and I told the tech who was about to give me the second dose that I had previously received the Johnson & Johnson, and she pulled her hand back, and she was scandalized, and she gives me this look like, how dare you? Like, how could you? And I was like, excuse me, put it in my arm, yo. And her response was, but you're messing with the public health data. And I was like, fuck your public health data.
I'm so sorry, but you can't say that on broadcast radio. So I'm going to put you on hold. I know that you have a story to tell. We're going to bring you back on here in just a moment. We'll give you a second chance. Normally we don't do that, Lindsay. But you have to understand we are doing a broadcast radio show, so you can't say you can't say things like that. Go ahead.
That's just really crazy. I thought that she was upset that she might hurt you, not that you weren't going to mess up the public health data. That was her. That's really weird. Like, I can't understand the mindset of these people.
Well, sorry about my error there. I have never really called into a show before.
That's okay.
Anyways.
So you were saying.
So I was saying that I was taken aback because it seemed like the decision-making process in that moment between myself and this, like, pharmacy tech was, I was saying, I think that getting this vaccine is in my own interest and, that of the people that I live with and I want to protect, whatever. You've heard all that before.
Mm-hmm.
But this other person's opinion was, well, like, if I receive this vaccine and consequently don't get COVID because, like, maybe it's worked, I don't know, like, I can't imagine, then, like, somehow I have, like, polluted the pool of public data about the efficacy of the first vaccine that I got. And I've been turning this over in my mind for a couple of months, trying to decide, like, which one of us was in the right there, and, like,
it's your body, it's your life. I mean, you should have the right to put within it whatever it is that you want to do. But what you're revealing is that this woman isn't so concerned with you personally, that you are literally just a number.
Yep.
Well, that's what it's all been about. Like, if they can gather enough data, they can manipulate it to fear the public even further into getting more of it.
Sure.
So this
and there's never enough.
There's
always another booster.
There's all kinds of. This isn't a novel thing either. Like, the government has prevented people from doing things that they wanted to do to their own body since probably the very beginning of the United States and probably other countries before it. But I know there's plenty of people that died wanting to try an experimental, like marijuana-based solution to their problem and ended up dying just because the government said, no, we're not going to allow you to try that.
Sure.
Just die instead.
There's a lot of people, the FDA has refused to allow access to experimental medications who were going to die anyway, and they just weren't even allowed to try something different.
It's not the exact same situation as what she was talking about, but it's not new. It's not surprising to me that the government, a worker was more concerned with the data than this person's choice of what to put in her body.
Yeah, Lindsay, thanks for calling and sharing your story here tonight. Appreciate hearing from you. There's more coming up. Hour number 3 is on the way. You can join us here on Free Talk Live. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I'm Ira Spitzer. U.S. President Joe Biden is asking the U.S. Congress to approve more than $30 billion in new funding of security, economic, and humanitarian assistance for Ukraine. President Biden said the funding was necessary to help Ukrainian forces defeat Russian attacks over the coming months. Here's FSN's U.S. correspondent Nina Maria Potts on the domestic challenges the U.S. president may face.
President Biden today making a real point of saying that he had not sent in troops, and he very much rejected Russian allegations of a proxy war.
They're not true. They do concern me because it shows the desperation that Russia is feeling about their abject failure in being able to do what they set out to do in the first instance.
Well, half of Americans in recent polling say that Russia poses a significant threat to the U.S. You know, that $33 billion US dollar number is a huge amount of money to announce on a day when the economic numbers are clearly faltering, rents are skyrocketing, and inflation is really beginning to bite.
Meanwhile, Ukrainian officials say that Russia fired 2 missiles at the Ukrainian capital of Kyiv, striking a residential building complex and injuring at least 10 people. The strike came during a visit by the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres to the city to meet with Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky. Correspondent Sergio Olmos is in Kyiv.
The visit today, there wasn't high expectations for it. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres was criticized by Ukrainian officials for going to Moscow before coming here. President Zelensky said there are no dead bodies in the streets in Moscow. If he wanted to see the effects of the war, he should come to Ukraine first. Indeed, tonight he did come to Ukraine and he did see some of those signs of occupation. But as their meeting concluded, explosions in the city center, the Russian armed forces sending a message as the world's top diplomat meets with Ukrainian president to discuss peace. Attacks just kilometers from where those talks were taking place. So that's what we're hearing tonight in Kyiv on the 64th, going into the 64th night of the invasion.
On Wall Street, stocks surged back on Thursday following a strong earnings report from Facebook's parent company, Meta Platforms. It lifted technology and growth stocks and offset worries about the U.S. economy's contraction in the first quarter. FSN's U.S. correspondent Kate Fisher reports.
The tech-heavy Nasdaq added 3.1%, the S&P 500 gained 2.5%, and the Dow Jones rose around 1.8%. Meta shares surged after the social network reported a larger-than-expected profit and rebounded from a drop in users.
From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today we're taking another look at the Solomon Islands. We've mentioned before that China recently signed an agreement with the government of the Pacific Island nation that the US bitterly opposes. Last weekend, one of President Biden's top national security officials travelled to the Solomon Islands and warned the country's government of consequences if they allow China to establish a military base. But what do Solomon Islanders themselves make of Prime Minister Manasseh Sogavar's decision to sign the agreement with Beijing? Jim Lindsay is with the New York-based Council on Foreign Relations.
Sogavar was elected prime minister back in 2019. Once he came into office, he almost immediately broke ties with Taiwan. Now, this is what Solomon Islanders refer to as the switch. Now, there remains a lot of support in the Solomon Islands for maintaining ties with Taipei. And again, the belief is that the switch happened because a lot of Chinese mainland money was sloshing around. There certainly doesn't appear to be a lot of sympathy among Solomon Islanders for China. A poll was done last year. It found that 91% of Solomon Islanders wanted the country to work closely with democratic countries, not with China.
The Solomon Islands government knows it's made a controversial choice, the Prime Minister saying this week that he couldn't release the details of the agreement with China without Beijing's permission. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
The main news again. U.S. President Biden asks Congress to approve more than $30 billion in new funding to help Ukraine. Ukrainian officials say that Russia fired 2 missiles at the Ukrainian capital of Kyiv during a visit by the UN's top official. And stocks surged on Thursday following a strong earnings report from Facebook's parent company, Meta Platforms. That is the latest feature story news. Ira Spitzer reporting.
A fully leveled up video game character marvels at how far he's come, and the milk rushing through a jug handle is having the time of its life. This is the Onion Week in Review. This week, top executives from the U.S. financial sector announced they're about ready to ruin the world again. Representatives from all major banking and investment institutions said that more than enough time has passed since they last caused a major global economic meltdown, and confirmed they're pretty much fully prepared to bring about a brand new worldwide financial crisis.
We feel like we've given people enough time to get comfortable again. Consumer spending has increased, housing market has rebounded. So yeah, we're all set to go ahead and ruin the global economy again.
And in other news, the perfect gift for a local man is unfortunately a gift certificate to Lowe's Cinemas. Mall shoppers look on in awe as a helpless 15-year-old girl is viciously torn apart by a pack of her peers. And a drunk pilot decides to pull over onto a cloud until he sobers up. You will now hear 3 gong strikes and a recitation of the great chant before being ushered to the hallowed garden. For more, keep checking theonion.com.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live. Free Talk Live. The phones are open. You can join us. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Here tonight, it's Ian.
And Bonnie.
And Joa. We've got other things to discuss tonight. If you're just tuning in, we have already talked about the death of some of the cannabis bills here in New Hampshire. The New Hampshire Senate killed them earlier today. Bureaucrats committing suicide. The Central African Republic making Bitcoin legal tender. You can also bring up anything you want. Bonnie, I know that you wanted to discuss student loans. We're going to get into that coming up. But first, Sarah is on the line in New Mexico. Sarah, you're on Free Talk Live. Sarah?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Thank you. So we made the national news. Menthol cigarettes are going to become illegal.
You made the national news?
Well, it was on the TV. I do have a TV.
But you said we made the national news.
Oh, I did it again. I have brain damage. I have head injury.
Oh, so,
well,
okay.
I mean, we as in the government. The
government.
Country.
Well, you do believe that you are the government, right?
Well, I'm part of it. I live here and I vote here. I influence.
You love the
politics.
government, so I mean, you might as well just be the government. You wish you could be. Would you like to be the president?
Well, I don't know about all that, but
Sounds
I
like a
think
lot of
I
work.
had an influence on the cigarette issue.
Did
and
you?
I rant and raved about the cigarette problems on this station. That's why I say we did it. And the thing is,
What did you do?
Well, I brought up the cigarettes are torturing me at the bus stop. They're a nuisance.
Yeah, and you'd
So
rather
the whole
smell
thing-
like Marlboro Reds than like some menthols. Like, I don't really get how that helps you.
Well, the thing is that the menthols are awful, more awful. They put more chemicals on it. That's how it feels to me. The thing is that it affects the African Americans and the young people. They're more addicted to menthols. That's what they're claiming. So it's a form of their cigarette companies out to genocide, kill off the black people.
Don't you think that this is actually discrimination against blacks? I mean, blacks are saying they prefer to smoke menthols, and now the government's saying we're going to make that a crime.
Yeah,
well, I think it's the black community that are upset and against
The black community
that
is
wants
no
to do-
such thing. There are individuals. There are only individual blacks. So there are individual blacks who smoke cigarettes, and then there are individual blacks who do not smoke cigarettes.
Well, they're people, and I don't think it's nice to just call people blacks. I don't like being called
Yeah.
a white.
Sarah, are you black or are you just representing black people?
No, but I am not, but I'm a minority, and it turns out that
Me
there was
too.
a black. Well, there was an African American lady on like TBS or something that was talking about that their community is the one that's suffering. That's what she spoke against about, and that's their form of
So
killing off the black
prohibition
people.
is going to help them?
And that's just one lady, Sarah. That's not a lady who represents the black community. I
Sarah,
mean, there's an.
Do you know what happened the first time they did prohibition?
Well, but it's not the drinking. I mean,
That's what I'm asking you about. Do you know what happened the first time they prohibited drinking?
Well, they made their own bootlegging or moonshine.
Yeah, they did. They made their own dangerous bootleg liquor. And
Did she say boot licking?
I don't know, but she certainly likes that.
Oh, okay, I see.
So, Sarah, they made illegal liquor, and you know what the police did about it?
What did they do?
They arrested people, and they killed people, and they put people in prison cells.
It's kind of interesting that the police are going after a type of cigarette that statistically, we've had this conversation come up on FTL before, and statistically it looks like it is true that black people prefer menthol cigarettes. So it's interesting that the government wants to go after a preference that is more likely to be made by a black person. It just sounds to me like they wanted a better reason to round them up and put them in jail. It doesn't sound to me like the cigarette companies are targeting black people by just offering a type of cigarette. It sounds more to me like the government is like, oh, that's the type of cigarette that black people are more likely to buy. Let's have another reason to arrest them whenever we pull them over on the side of the road.
Yep.
And Sarah, as a ginger minority myself, I prefer reds, okay? And if you were to try to ban reds tomorrow, we would fight back. And you don't
He speaks for all
represent
gingers,
me.
by
Yeah,
the way.
that's right. I mean, look, I'm an individual. I represent myself. But if you want to start like representing whole groups of people, well, as a ginger minority, I'm highly offended by that. Actually, we're probably the smallest minority, so we're the most minor of the minorities.
Wait a minute, the Reds. What do you mean the Reds?
Well, if you try to
cigarette
ban the
is
Reds
talking
on
about-
me,
Marlboro Reds,
we'll have a problem.
You talking about red cigarettes?
Yeah, how
Marlboro
dare
Reds?
you try to ban my Reds?
Okay, well, it seems like you guys are okay. It's the menthols that they're going
No,
after.
well, I like
Blacks are in
menthols
trouble.
too, but I prefer Reds first.
We're okay. They're going to be going after black people, right, Sarah? That's how they're going to help them, by throwing them into a jail cell?
Well, I don't know about how they do it. As long as it's legal.
Let me tell you, that's
I-
how they do it. If you break the law, they put you in a jail cell. And if you don't want to go to the jail cell, they put a gun to your head.
Well, they're not going to have anything to make. They're not going to. What are they going to do? Make illegal menthol cigarettes in the basement of the home?
If they don't make them, they'll import them from China or somewhere else where they are still made.
Or like
They'll
over the
smuggle
border
them.
in Arizona or Texas.
Or just the fact that there's a high tax on cigarettes, and you have Eric Garner selling individual cigarettes on New York streets, and then he gets choked out and killed. Do you support that? Because he was selling cigarettes illegally.
I was going to ask her that. Good question. Sarah, do you know what he's talking about?
Well, he is supporting suffocation of people. He's supporting.
So he deserves to be suffocated.
He's not supporting anything. All he was doing was selling. That means he was offering a product. Somebody could voluntarily give him money, and he would give them the product. That doesn't mean that he is, forcing something on people. People should be free to smoke cigarettes if they want to.
Those people could have walked into the nearby cigarette store and bought a whole pack of the cigarettes. Right. He was selling them singly. So he was selling one cigarette at a time instead of a whole pack at a time. And you're saying, Sarah, that he should have been killed for that?
Well, I mean, I'm not saying that he should have been killed for it, but he was extorting. How much do you think he was? He was jacking up the price.
Who cares?
He has a right to do that.
$1.
If he was exploiting people and they could have gotten a better price, they would have just walked into another store and gotten a better
price. They don't have
price.
to buy it from the guy in the street.
So what is he doing? That's illegal. It's illegal to be selling stuff that suffocates you.
Should it be illegal that cheeseburgers be illegal?
They weren't illegal because they were cigarettes. They were illegal because he was reselling them individually and he didn't have a license. That doesn't mean somebody gets to go up to him and choke him to death and kill him.
Well, that's how it wound up. That's what he
because of people like you, Sarah. Because of people like you who rant and rave to the government and say, I want you to go after these people because they're doing something I don't like that's literally harming no one else.
And guess what? It's going to happen more now, specifically to other black people. Eric Garner was a black man, by the way. It's going to happen to other black people who import menthol cigarettes and go and sell menthols on the streets because now it's going to be a prohibited product, just like cocaine, just like crack, just like, cannabis, you name it. It's going to be in the underground black market, and these people are going to be selling them, and cops are going to be arresting them.
Sarah,
they're going to be shooting them.
What if some scientists came out with a paper that said these essential oils you used to sell were dangerous, and so the cops made it illegal. They found out that you had been selling those and they choked you to death. Would that be fine because they made it illegal?
Well, I mean, that doctor, that's telling a lie. That's making a conjured up lies. Well, the cigarettes have been known to kill people. It's been documented.
Actually, I've been learning a lot recently about how bad essential oils actually are for you. Like, you would never encounter a concentrated amount of oil like that in the wild, and actually they're really not that good for you.
Well, there are different...
Well, the cigarettes, the menthol has always been hurting me. It's been irritating more by smelling those from secondhand smoke.
Have you ever tried walking away? Have you ever tried walking away?
Well, something, I stand so far away, I miss the bus. I try not to talk to them or get confrontational.
Have you ever asked them?
Yeah, exactly. Well, she's saying she never talked to them. That was the next thing I was going to ask. Have you ever asked them to politely not?
She's a coward.
Be nice.
She'd rather go to the government and have them use violence.
Force.
Thanks, Sarah, for the call tonight. I appreciate her calling in about it because, honestly, I had not heard the news, and it is breaking as of today. The Associated Press says the FDA is going to outlaw menthol cigarettes and flavored cigars. We'll tell you more about it coming up here in moments. You can share your thoughts as well on the new prohibition. It's Free Talk Live. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
When a lunar observatory detects a radio broadcast originating from Proxima Centauri, the nations of Earth discover their first contact with an alien race may also be their last. With the Proximans facing an extinction-level disaster, Earth must choose between sending a ship on a multi-year journey or allowing nature to take its course. Saving Proxima, a hard science fiction thriller by Travis S. Taylor and Les Johnson from BaneBooks.com.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it! You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
You can help more people hear the message of liberty by joining Free Talk Live's AMPS program on Patreon for as little as $5 a month. And you'll get access to special perks. Visit amps.freetalklive.com, amps.freetalklive.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live, open phones if you want to join us. Talking about a new ban, the new prohibition. U.S. government, Federal Food and Drug Administration, FDA, is now going to be getting rid of menthol. No more menthol cigarettes, no more flavored cigars.
Oh, that was... wait, that was nationwide? I thought that
Nationwide.
was in New Mexico the whole time Sarah was talking about. Wow.
No, nationwide.
Wow.
We'll tell you more about it coming up here tonight. It's Ian.
And Bonnie.
And Joa.
And again, the phones are open at 603-283-6160. We're going to them where Major Payne is on the line here to start things out in Michigan. Go ahead, Major.
Good evening. Thank you for taking my call. Ian.
Yes, sir.
I'm sad to hear they've got you ankle shackled. I didn't know you had gone that far into it.
Oh, yeah. No, I've had an ankle monitor on for the last 11 months since I got out of jail.
Be glad you popped up from that tour with the Tidy Bowl Man. A lot of us don't come up from that.
Tidy Bowl Man?
Yeah, what you remember the Tidy Bowl Man, the old commercial back in the day?
Nope.
He was a little dude that advertised those blue things that they put in the toilet to pretty your tank. And he'd swim around in your toilet bowl in the motorboat.
Huh. No, I remember Mr. Clean, but I don't remember that one.
Oh, yeah, check out Tidy Bowl Man. It's pretty cool. Anyway, I made inferences of that many times. If you go for a ride with a Tidy Bowl Man, you might not come back.
I gotcha.
It's
All
a
right.
goldfish ride, you know.
What else you got, Major? What about it?
Well, as far as Sarah was talking about the menthol,
yeah,
I used to smoke menthol cigarettes. I mean, I've been smoking cigarettes for, almost 50 years now.
Wow.
But I went to Reds, but menthol is a separate addiction. It does have I don't know, I can't describe it. I mean,
it just tastes so much better. Like, I don't like smoking cigarettes anymore, but when I did, I definitely smoked the most menthol-y ones possible, because anytime somebody like handed me a Marlboro Red or something and I didn't know, it's like poison compared to a menthol.
Well, menthol eucalyptus is a plant, and they've tried to screw us out of everything that's good for us. So this wouldn't surprise me if this has beneficial factors. Anyway,
I wouldn't go so far as to say you're going to get a benefit from smoking cigarettes.
I'm sure they use artificial crap.
No, I'm talking about the properties of the eucalyptus plant.
Gotcha.
They want to ban whatever we might be able to use for our own benefit. But as far as you being with your ankle shackled, did you ever get medical clearance so you could enjoy some greenery?
Actually, I do have a medical card in New Hampshire, and I got last year in August, but my attorney has not put that in front of the judge, so I don't have any permission to actually use it from the bail system or from the probation system. So basically, it's useless to me. But I do technically have that card. I got it for PTSD actually from the raid.
Well, it's terrible. The more greenery you got with dead men's faces on it, the more happier you're going to be, it seems like.
Thank you, Major Payne, for the call tonight. Appreciate hearing from you. The Associated Press reporting here that the U.S. government gang today released their long-awaited plan to ban menthol cigarettes and flavored cigars, citing the toll on black smokers and young people.
And that's just so condescending. Like, I feel like if I was black, I'd be like, whether I smoked menthol cigarettes or not, I feel like I would be like, that's really condescending that they think, oh, they're saving black people from smoking these labs if black people can't make their own choices.
Yeah, and they'll come back after they pass these like laws to help black people. They're like, now black people have a voice. Oh, okay. Like, you've represented them, white person, and I'm saying that in all like kindness, because like it's usually white people pass these laws.
Sure.
You know.
Well, the Health and Human Secretary's name is Xavier Berchera. I don't know if he is Spanish or what, but he added the ban would also be a, quote, important step for advancing health equity. The proposed rules would help prevent children from becoming the next generation of smokers and help adult smokers quit. How many people who, when they were kids, started smoking just so they could try menthol cigarettes?
Yeah, seriously. When I was a kid, I would have smoked anything. I said when I was a kid, but when I was like a high schooler, I would have smoked anything some older kid gave me because I'd be like, wow, this is so cool.
Because it was cool?
Yeah.
The Food and Drug Administration said eliminating menthol cigarettes could prevent between 300,000 and 650,000 smoking deaths over 40 years. See, the blacks, according to the government, are just not smart enough to be able to make these decisions for themselves. So they need the good white man, Joe Biden, to step in and prohibit them from making all these bad choices.
He's got to be the most racist president I've ever
Yeah, earlier last year he said that black and Latino people can't get on the internet.
He did say that.
So that's how why they don't have enough information about the vaccine.
Yep.
Yeah, right.
He really said that.
Maybe they're just defiant people that don't want to take orders from white people.
Yeah, maybe they know better than to listen to the government. Yeah. Menthol accounts for more than a third of cigarettes sold in the United States, and the mint flavor is favored by black smokers and young people, according to the AP. Menthol's cooling effect has been shown to mask the throat harshness of smoking, making it easier to start and harder to quit. The FDA said it will also seek to ban menthol and dozens of other flavors like grape and strawberry from cigars, which are increasingly popular with young people, especially black teens.
I've always wished that there was like grape and strawberry. When I was a cigarette smoker, I wished that there was grape and different flavored cigarettes, because of course they have that for like cigarillos and stuff like that. But I don't know why I'm even mentioning this. It's not a good thing.
Well, it sounds like they're trying to get rid of like blunt wraps and that sort of thing too,
And that's
which
messed
is
up. People aren't
predominantly
buying-
black people. You smoke
Well,
weed.
people, I was going to say, aren't buying those to smoke them, probably in a majority.
You know how many times you see on the side of the road with like someone just emptied out their cigar to fill it with weed? I
Yep,
mean,
that
honestly,
happens.
that's not those flavored cigars are not for just some people just smoking. They're cutting them open and they're filling them with weed and wrapping them back up.
I will
and
say,
smoking it that way.
I used them to stop smoking cigarettes. Sounds weird, but that was like the longest time I stopped smoking cigarettes. That was my like last louder step. I was
What
like,
were you doing?
I was just like, I'm gonna stop buying the cigarettes I like. I'm gonna buy these cigarillo things that are like grape, and like whenever I'm done smoking it, like a cigarette, just put it out, kept it in its bag in my car.
So you were using the tobacco. You were.
Yeah,
you
I
weren't
was
putting
smoking the
cannabis in
tobacco,
it.
but it was like a short amount of time.
Maybe because they're trying to ban these cigars, maybe they're racist against Hondurans and Dominican Republic people, where most of these flavored cigars are coming from.
Could be.
Even though they say Dutch masters, right? They're not Dutch at
No.
all, guys.
Well, maybe the company is owned by some Dutch or something like that.
Made in Honduras.
So they are coming after this net. And by the way, you've got something here, Joa, in the studio. You have a flavored vape.
Yeah, I've been sucking on this flavored vape.
You couldn't get that in Massachusetts, right?
I got it here in Keene.
No, I said you couldn't get a flavored
No, there's
vape
no
in-
flavors in Mass. It's
Right,
like,
they outlawed them.
You get tobacco flavored or natural flavor.
Didn't
which,
they outlaw menthols in Massachusetts a couple years ago, too?
Yeah, I was doing Uber in Cape Cod, and like some towns, like the larger towns, had banned the menthols, and I was a menthol smoker at that time, and I would have to. I'd walk into a store and they're like, "Yo, yeah, we don't have any menthols." I was like, "Are you serious?"
Yeah.
And then they'll tell me, "Go over this town."
The next town over.
Yeah, yeah. So
Wow.
I don't care. I'll make it there at some point during the day.
And people are going to go out of the country to get menthols now, and they're going to smuggle them in. And I guarantee you're going to have counterfeit menthol Marlboro cigarettes or
Ew.
counterfeit Newports
With
on the
fentanyl in
streets
them.
with God knows what. in them.
Or go to your local native tribe tobacco stores, and the federal government can't shut them down, probably, right?
Good question. More coming up. Free Talk Live.
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Carl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I'm Ira Spitzer. U.S. President Joe Biden is asking the U.S. Congress to approve more than $30 billion in new funding of security, economic, and humanitarian assistance for Ukraine. President Biden said the funding was necessary to help Ukrainian forces defeat Russian attacks over the coming months. Here's FSN's U.S. correspondent Nina Maria Potts on the domestic challenges the U.S. president may face.
President Biden today making a real point of saying that he had not sent in troops, and he very much rejected Russian allegations of a proxy war.
They're not true. They do concern me because it shows the desperation that Russia is feeling about their abject failure in being able to do what they set out to do in the first instance.
Well, half of Americans in recent polling say that Russia poses a significant threat to the U.S. You know, that $33 billion US dollar number is a huge amount of money to announce on a day when the economic numbers are clearly faltering, rents are skyrocketing, and inflation is really beginning to bite.
Meanwhile, Ukrainian officials say that Russia fired 2 missiles at the Ukrainian capital of Kyiv, striking a residential building complex and injuring at least 10 people. The strike came during a visit by the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres to the city to meet with Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky. Correspondent Sergio Olmos is in Kyiv.
The visit today, there wasn't high expectations for it. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres was criticized by Ukrainian officials for going to Moscow before coming here. President Zelensky said there are no dead bodies in the streets in Moscow. If he wanted to see the effects of the war, he should come to Ukraine first. Indeed, tonight he did come to Ukraine and he did see some of those signs of occupation. But as their meeting concluded, explosions in the city center, the Russian armed forces sending a message as the world's top diplomat meets with Ukrainian president to discuss peace. Attacks just kilometers from where those talks were taking place. So that's what we're hearing tonight in Kyiv on the 64th, going into the 64th night of the invasion.
On Wall Street, stocks surged back on Thursday following a strong earnings report from Facebook's parent company, Meta Platforms. It lifted technology and growth stocks and offset worries about the U.S. economy's contraction in the first quarter. FSN's U.S. correspondent Kate Fisher reports.
The tech-heavy Nasdaq added 3.1%, the S&P 500 gained 2.5%, and the Dow Jones rose around 1.8%. Meta shares surged after the social network reported a larger-than-expected profit and rebounded from a drop in users.
From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live, and you can join us here if you want. You can bring up whatever is on your mind. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Here tonight, you've got Ian.
And Bonnie.
And Joa.
And it was actually thanks to Sarah for bringing up this topic tonight. I had not heard. Apparently, the U.S. Federal Food and Drug Administration is now going to be banning cigarettes, menthol cigarettes. So you can still smoke. You just can't use menthol cigarettes. And they're also going to target flavored cigars. And the article says they're citing the toll on black smokers and young people. And you pointed out, Bonnie, during the break that I had said blacks during the last segment, and it's obviously more appropriate to say black people. I didn't intend to dehumanize anyone here, but it's interesting that this article doesn't even refer to them as people. This AP report refers to them as black smokers and young people. So instead of saying black smokers and young smokers, no, it's black smokers and young people. But
wow, AP is the one that during Katrina, I think. Wait, where's AP from?
Associated Press. It's a national organization.
I think it was them that during Katrina they had pictures where it was like pictures of white people. It was like they're gathering supplies after Katrina, and then pictures of black people, like black people looting a store, and like people made a meme out of that, like showed how they were reporting it differently. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the government using black people to target new prohibition. They're using them as an excuse, saying that they're going to help black people here by prohibiting things, when we know the truth is they're going to actually arrest more black people for this. And that's because it's likely that some percentage of black smokers are going to continue to want to smoke menthols. And so therefore, they're going to turn to the black market in order to purchase those menthol cigarettes.
Sure.
And while menthols may not currently be available on the black market because, well, they're not prohibited quite yet, but it's coming. It's going to be finalized apparently before next year, and then companies would then have an additional year to phase out the product. So there's going to be a blowout period where everybody that's got an inventory of menthol cigarettes is going to be looking to sell it all, because there'll be a deadline by which, if they continue to sell after that deadline, they will then be prosecuted.
They could, they could apply this flavoring logic to anything. Like, I can't drink alcohol straight. I have to flavor it
to make it more palatable.
Yeah. So does that mean you're going to ban flavoring because that's encouraged me to drink more?
They might.
To protect the ginger drinkers.
Yeah, the ginger drinkers. Like,
it wouldn't surprise me if they went after your nicotine vape,
right?
Well, they already did in some states.
Yeah, that's going to go federal at some point.
The other thing that happened during Trump was that they changed the smoking law that used to be in most states 18
21 now
to 21
federal.
federally,
Yep.
and that's
Again,
so ridiculous.
Massachusetts led the way on that one too. Massachusetts had some of the towns went 21 only, and then the whole state went 21, and then all of the United States went 21.
Well, look, when you have a public school system, like a public prison system, and you're not really educating the kids and not becoming mature because the parents are not taking care of them, that sort of thing, then yeah, I mean, this average age of maturity is rising, and they're justifying, they can't make logical choices for themselves, or they're making poor choices, so we're going to have to raise the age. So when are they going to raise it again? When
Like
they make
30.
kids stupider?
Well, you ask an interesting question, and if you looked to, I think it's New Zealand and Denmark, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I believe those are the two countries that are experimenting with a new form of age restriction. So what they have determined is that if you are, and I'm just picking a date and an age, I don't know exactly what these are, but if you are going to be the age of 21 in New Zealand before a certain year, then you will be able to smoke cigarettes. If, however, and let's just say it's 2025. So if you turn 21 before 2025, you're good to go. You can smoke cigarettes.
Like a grandfather kind of clause.
Yeah, you're good to go.
Yep.
If, however, you are not 21 in the year 2025, if you're 20 years old or younger, sorry, you will never be able to buy cigarettes legally in your entire life.
What?
They're just going to ban it from then on out.
Yeah, they're
Everyone-
banning a specific, starting at a specific year, they're just going to say, nope, no, you kids today, we're going to protect you from ever being able to smoke by threatening you with violence if you are to buy cigarettes. So
It's just so obviously a new thing for police to harass people about.
that's what it's always been.
Imagine if somebody legally in the United States now bought some American Spirits, just some mild cigarettes, and then they opened them up and added some like menthol, I don't know, peppermint essential oils or something, and then they're smoking them. A police officer could still go over and be like, that smells like, I think I smell menthol on your breath. Turn around and put them in handcuffs and stuff. That's just an excuse for them to arrest more people.
Maybe if they want people to wear more masks, they'd make them menthol flavored.
Oh my God.
That is a thing at raves, by the way.
What?
Yeah, so at raves, people use these Vapo Rub inhaler things.
Why?
I guess it's some sort of thing while you're on ecstasy, I guess. I've never really understood it personally, but
I don't know. It opens them up so they can breathe better. I don't know. I don't really understand.
They like the feeling
drug
of
or
it.
anything.
But what they'll do is they'll wipe the Vapo Rub inside a mask, and they'll put a mask on, and that way they're constantly smelling the Vapo Rub.
That sounds so bad.
This
for
is
you.
before masks were a thing.
I kind of vaguely remember
years.
something like this.
Yeah, if you ever prior to 2020, if you ever saw somebody with a mask on at a rave, that was why. So let me just get a little more here from this story. They say that quote, taking these products out of the legal marketplace. This is Altria. This is one of the major cigarette manufacturers. They say that will push them into unregulated criminal markets. We'll continue to engage in this long-term regulatory process. So these are not good guys. Altria, of course, is a major cigarette manufacturer. I mean, I'm not a fan of what they do, but they shouldn't be able to be stopped from doing their business. And you brought up a really interesting question, Joa. What about the Indian reservations? Are they going to be able to continue to make and sell menthol-based cigarettes without any infiltration or interference?
I'm not sure if they're making a lot of them themselves. I'm not really sure about
They
that.
might be soon.
Well, yeah, they're going to want to. It's incentive for them to make money on that. But I think they're getting their deliveries from big manufacturers. So
really, they don't do their own.
I would think there's some of it going on. Honestly, I've never been to one.
Yeah, I've never went and bought cigarettes on them.
I've heard you can go to
Reservations.
places and buy really cheap. Instead of buying $100 carton, you can get it for like $15.
Oh my God.
This is going to be interesting to see what happens because I don't think the FDA can prohibit an individual from having a menthol cigarette. I think they can only do regulatory stuff,
So
right?
like selling it, manufacturing.
Right. So I think they can stop the manufacturers from doing it by punishing them with fines or whatever other threats. But the average person on the streets probably is not going to be in jeopardy unless states follow up with prohibitions.
The federal government didn't make it illegal? The FDA just...
This is an FDA rulemaking process, and they are still in the process. So they've released their plan at this point. It's not an officially done deal, but it's basically it's going to happen. They're moving forward with this.
If the FDA recommends, then the federal government makes it illegal? Or
No. A regulatory agency like the FDA is granted rulemaking so-called authority. So you know how Congress passes these laws that are like thousands of pages long? Right?
Yep.
And they never read them?
Yep.
Well, there's a ton more regulations that Congress never even sees. So there's the multi-thousand page laws that Congress passes, and of course they don't read it. But then what they do when they make new bureaucracies is they say, okay, we're going to create the FDA. And the FDA has ability to make all these rules over all these different areas, and they just have to go through a process.
But so what I was saying earlier was dumb about like a cop pulling someone over for smelling like menthol. That's not going to happen?
That will happen if states prohibit menthol.
Oh, okay.
So if a state, say Massachusetts, now Massachusetts I think
Already
only
did it.
prohibited the sale of it. I don't think they prohibited the possession, but I could be wrong. I don't know. It is Massachusetts.
They must have not, because people come up to New Hampshire to drive and get those.
Yeah, good point.
You can't bring flavored vapes into Mass.
Oh, that's right. They did do that. We talked about that.
You'll get a fine for that.
There's more coming up here. It's Free Talk Live. The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com.
I'm crazy about My Magic Mud. This is the most important oral care product created this millennium, and I'm not kidding. We all have different opinions on politics and issues, but we all have mouths. And I want yours to be as clean as possible, with teeth as bright as they were meant to be. I will never be without My Magic Mud. It's a little surprising, but man, does it work. If you only listen to one thing I say ever, go to mymagicmud.com and get 20% off with code FTL. mymagicmud.com, code FTL.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with agristhosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to agristhosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's agristhosting.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? you can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. Phones are open here. If you want to join us, you may do that right now at 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Here tonight, Ian.
And Bonnie.
And Joa.
You can join us online at freetalklive.com. Please enjoy the features on the site. You can subscribe via our podcast. Just go to feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com. You'll find links to our RSS feeds there. There's one that's got all of the content that we put out. There's one that's digest only. And there's one that's full shows only. You pick whichever one's best for you and subscribe via your favorite podcast client. Just go to feeds.freetalklive.com to find those. And we're going to go back to the phones here. Olivia is on the line in Arizona. Olivia, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, I had several points to make about this ridiculous proposed ban on flavor cigarettes. And granted, this is coming from someone who enjoyed a clove cigarette today. But the first point was, I hate to disagree with Bonnie, but I really enjoy essential oils, and I feel like they make me feel better, but that's just my experience. But I have been to...
I definitely don't think they should be made illegal or something like that. I was just trying to make a point to Sarah.
Oh, that is a good point, because they can always come out with evidence that anything's bad for you. Yeah.
And that's the other thing, like, I'm not saying I know essential oils are bad for you. I've just been seeing people talking about it recently and showing their, proof or whatever. But there's also, I could go and find proof that it's not bad for you, so it's like, it's hard to really know.
If you think they're good for you, then I say more power to you.
Yeah, if it makes you feel better.
Yeah, but that was a great point, actually, because they can come up with any data. They can skew data any way they want to ban whatever they feel like it at the moment. But I have been to a reservation tobacco shop, actually more than one, because I live in Arizona and there's lots of reservations. In fact, there's a really nice cigar bar called Owl Ear on the Maricopa Reservation in Scottsdale. But I haven't really seen that they grow their own tobacco and make their own products. It's kind of like they sell the major brands just at a cheaper price, like really good prices. So that's what I've seen so far. But
that's because there's no tax on it. That's why.
Oh yeah, that's nice too.
Well, what we learned was that the Seneca Nation in New York, they do, it looks like, manufacture their own cigarettes. That it's done in Canada. But it's the Six Nations or whatever is involved in that. So some of the Indian folks are actually doing their own manufacturing.
Oh, awesome. That's the way it should be, But I just wanted to make one comparison here. Remember when the FDA banned ephedrine and then methamphetamine got so much worse? There's actually a really excellent article on The Atlantic called "I Don't Know That I Would Even Call It Meth Anymore." It's so chemically different that it puts people into catatonia and insanity and homelessness. You guys got to cover this article one day. And it was all because ephedrine comes from a natural plant, the ephedra plant, and then they banned that. And so then they started finding ways to chemically synthesize it with really toxic, really toxic chemicals. And now it's just a poison that
made it even worse. Made something that was bad even more deadly and dangerous to people.
Right. Like they interviewed people who had done meth for 10 years and they were highly functioning. And then this new stuff came out of nowhere and they became homeless. They lost their minds. And it used to be very niche. Like, you couldn't find it just anywhere. Well, now that they can synthesize it cheaply, it's everywhere.
It is odd to me how readily available meth is. Like, so many people I know have done meth, and I'm just like, what? Like, where do you, what? How do you do that? Like, it's crazy. It's just so easy to go get meth.
Thank you, Olivia, for the call tonight. I appreciate you sharing that. And that's, of course, what's going to happen here in this situation is people that want to continue to smoke menthols, they will find a way.
Yeah, it's, like I said, it's super easy to go find meth, and obviously that's super illegal.
Yeah, so it's going to go through, there's going to be a couple different ways that I can immediately think of. One, the obvious one, the black market's going to start selling menthol cigarettes. Your local meth dealers are going to start selling packs of menthols that
and
they're
maybe
getting.
they have crap in them too, you know?
Well,
like,
that's the thing.
Like what she's saying.
If they're made on the black market, there are already counterfeit cigarettes. Okay, that's already a thing. You can already go on like a darknet market and you can order counterfeit cigarettes. And the idea is that if you're an unscrupulous dealer, you would then go and sell these fake Marlboros or whatever for less than what you would pay at the store for an actual pack of Marlboros. Your average cigarette buyer may or may not know the difference, may or may not care. They may figure, oh, I'm getting a pack of cigarettes for less. You know, you live in New York City where a pack of cigarettes is $15. If you can come in there with a pack at $8 or $9 or $10, then you know you're undercutting the legal market and you make some good money on that.
I would say like some of the most popular like menthols. Yeah, you might not be able to buy them anymore, but if a black market is going to rise up of menthol cigarettes, I'm hoping they're actually be healthier, as in they can't afford to throw in all those toxic ingredients. So maybe the black market will solve a problem about people doing the menthol.
That's really optimistic. I've heard.
I know. I'm trying to play devil's advocate.
I've heard that these black market cigarettes are not as good. That there's something about them. I don't know what they put in them. I presume maybe somebody
not
has actually
cured right or something.
Yeah, or maybe they're going moldy. Yeah, it's another great point. Because that's what you get in the black market in cannabis. Sometimes you get moldy cannabis. So why wouldn't you get the same thing with tobacco? There's no quality control. If it sits on a pallet in a warehouse for a year before it moves out, no one cares as long as they can move it to the next guy. Mm-hmm. And so you know what else I think they're going to do is, I bet you this already exists. I wouldn't know what to go exactly search for, but I'd be willing to bet something like this exists: a menthol additive. Like a little dropper.
That's what I was imagining with. Well, yeah, like something like that does exist, like essential oils. You get.
But can you smoke them?
Well,
yeah,
like,
you could.
Like if you go to like places around here, like Smokers Haven or like these smoke shops, they do sell like this stuff that like liquid to put on your cigarettes or smokables to make them taste a certain way. So that could be a way to do it.
And actually, nobody take my word for that. I don't know that you can smoke menthol. I mean, essential oils.
Yeah, whether or not it's good for you to do these things is another question.
Right.
But those products will exist, and people will just take a pack of Marlboro Reds and they'll do a little stripe of menthol down the top of each one.
But that's what I was talking about earlier. And what if the states do make menthol, like other than Massachusetts? What if all the states make menthols illegal, and then the cops are, arresting people on suspicion of owning a menthol cigarette when all they did was add an additive, like you were saying?
Yeah, that could
be instead of saying I smell marijuana in your car, it's gonna be, I smell menthol in your car. And like, how do you prove it? All this stuff,
It could be going there. Let's go to this unscreened caller. You're on Free Talk Live. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm wondering about Bitcoin. It seems to me like, since that's a fiat currency as well as the U.S. fiat currency, how does that offer an improvement? It's going to fail.
It's going to fail.
Doesn't sound like you're wondering anything. It sounds like that was a statement. But so yeah. I don't know how you can just say that it's a fiat currency. Fiat means it has no value except that the people who created it said this is the value. That's not the case with Bitcoin. Bitcoin has value because it is it's scarce. It also has utility. The dollar itself doesn't have all these amazing utilities that Bitcoin has.
Yeah, you can't make it at thin air. So there has to be proof of work for the values to incur. So like there is a track of it.
That's a good point. There's a lot of actual computer time and math that goes into making it secure. So when you say it's going to fail, what do you mean? It's going to go to zero?
the U.S. every fiat is. I can fill my keys with gold, but I can't fill them with Bitcoin or the U.S. dollar.
Good luck taking that gold out of the country.
He doesn't know what fiat means. He's trying to say that because it's not a physical product, it's fiat. That doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like you really understand what Bitcoin is.
Or what you're talking about.
But is it your prediction that Bitcoin's going to go to zero, sir? Is that what you will determine?
I'll put a bet on that for you.
Well, that would be what you think means it has failed?
Okay, high voice, Bonnie. I'll take that bet.
I mean, I don't know who you
discriminatory
are.
against high voices?
Yeah, you
Do you like your women with low voices?
Well, from now on, I'm going to talk like this to you when you call in, okay?
Yeah, I mean, I wish you'd called in at an earlier point, caller, because I would have loved to have had a better discussion with you about that.
Why? He doesn't know what he's talking about. If he can't
clearly
even...
doesn't, but I wish we had more than a minute and a half or whatever to talk to him about it.
I just want to make it clear I wasn't making fun of you, Bonnie.
Oh, I know.
Bonnie, obviously we don't have a whole lot of time here for the student loans, and you're probably not going to be back for a few days. Did you want to talk about that later?
Basically, all I had to say about it was that Joe Biden is hinting at that he might do something concerning his campaign promise of erasing student debt, and I think that's a horrible idea. It doesn't make sense that people took on debt, and now people who didn't take on debt, people who don't have college educations, need to be footed the bill for people who went to college when they couldn't afford it.
Right, because somebody's got to pay for that, right?
Sounds like he's trying to accelerate the crash.
And can he do this on his own? Wouldn't he need Congress to pass some sort of bill?
It's just whisperings right now. It's like that.
You know, it's going to be just for black people first.
I don't know.
Because Joe Biden's racist, he has to make do.
Keep us in the loop, Bonnie, if this continues to develop, and maybe the caller will call in tomorrow night earlier in the show.
Yeah, please.
And we could talk about Bitcoin and why he thinks it's going to fail when it's currently at about $40,000 per coin. We'll see you tomorrow. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer